The time is 6:30. We will call the meeting to order. I didn't hit record. Someone did it for me. Okay. Establish a quorum. Everyone is present. First item on the agenda is a review. Do we have to approve the agenda for this meeting? Yes. Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda for this meeting?
So moved.
And a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Review and approval of beer board minutes from February 9th. Did everybody get a copy of those? I'll take a motion whenever someone's ready.
I make a motion to accept the minutes.
Second? Mr. Cates? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Review and discussion of off-premises beer permit. This is for Patel Ashwin Kumar. Is that correct? Yeah. Close enough? For the Sunoco station? Okay. Would you like to address the beer board? Okay. So he's not here, you're the partner? Okay. Okay. Hey, if we can back up just a minute, I think I need a motion to hear.
You don't need a second on the motion here.
Okay. Do we vote?
No.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
I don't know if you can answer these questions since your partner is not here, but perhaps you can. If not, we'll deal with that. My name is Debbie Hummel, and I was reviewing the application for both of the applicants for tonight since they seem to be in the same building. Therefore, would have the same owner of the building. So looking at Mr. Patel's application, one thing that I see discrepancy or something doesn't match, because in item number 3 where it lists to please furnish, it says it's marked as a corporation, but in item 10, Mr. Patel indicates that under which the business will operate is Harry Krishna II Incorporated. Now, when it lists down here who owns the building, he has it listed as an LLC. But if I look at Miss Yashika, and I hope I'm pronouncing that name correctly, I'm not sure if I am or not, excuse me if I'm not, her application states that the property owner is Krishna Oil, Inc. So if you're in the same building, who owns the building? Because you say one person and someone else says something else. Wouldn't it be the same owner?
No, but that's transposed. The owner is the LLC, property owner is the LLC, and the business operates as an incorporated business.
Right, I know, but I'm talking about who owns the building. I get two different names of who owns the building.
Harry Krishna LLC.
All right, so the one that Shashika has on her application then is not correct because it lists as an oil company.
We are in process to buy the property also, and we're gonna do the closing on same time. Like end of this month, we're gonna have the closing. We're buying the property.
All right, so the deal hasn't processed through yet. The other person still owns it, right? And so that's why they're still selling beer there, I guess, right now.
We will do the closing at the end of this month.
So what is the name of the building owner? Who owns the building?
It's the Hare Krishna LLC.
Okay, so that would be the same thing. So therefore, would a correction need to be made on her application to reflect the same name?
Business gonna be run under the INC, so we just keep two separate entities, so that way we don't get any problem. If somebody gets a lawsuit or something something happen, it's not go to the ILC, it's go to the
I understand about the business owner, and I don't know if I'm making myself clear or not, or someone else can help me out here. The brick and mortar building itself that has Domino's on one end, the Sunoco store on one end, and then it has the Cactus on the other end. That big building is owned by multiple people?
It's an LLC.
It's an LLC.
It's an LLC.
And you can have different corporations underneath an LLC.
All right, so that, the name of the Christian Oil is under that LLC then. All right, thank you very much, that was it. I do have another question, if I may continue, someone else wants to expound on this, is that I noticed that on Mr. Patel's application, he states that he has lived in Oakland since 2017, and that resides on Birch Springs Drive in Oakland. However, when I look at the IDs that he provided for identification purposes, to look at that, he has an Illinois driver's license that says he lives in such and such street in Schaumburg, Illinois. Now, I hope everyone's aware that the statute, the requirement in the state of Tennessee is that if you establish a residency here in Tennessee, you have 30 days to turn in your old state license and get a Tennessee license. But yet I see where Mr. Patel in 2020 renewed his driver's license in Illinois. Now, is he not aware of the law in Tennessee? I'm just curious, I don't know why this doesn't match.
answer the question about his ID and stuff, but I think he has got the business over there too. In Illinois, you got the business over there?
He's got two residents over there.
Yeah, two residents, so he's just doing back and forth too, you know. So that's the reason he will probably convert here.
Is that on both applications? Is that on both applications? They have another residence outside of the business on both of them?
Well, I'll ask her when she comes up there, say if that's the case, and rather than just assuming that. 'Cause I don't think you can speak for her. But anyway, so you have two residences, but you claim your primary residence obviously is Illinois, not you, but your partner, because that's where he renewed his license. He didn't renew his license in Tennessee. He renewed it in Illinois.
He probably gonna change it,
Going to?
he probably going to.
All right, statute in Tennessee says within 30 days.
Yeah, I'll talk with him and make sure.
Well, if he has two residences, I mean, the IRS says you gotta live there 6 months and 1 day. But for our purposes, I mean, if this is it makes me feel better to know that this is a valid ID, he does own the property there. I'm glad that you asked the question. The only thing that I could see is that, and I don't think this is probably our mistake or miss, you know, on question number 21, you know, you're supposed to give the person that's closest there, if they're within 250 feet, the right to come here and say, I don't want beer sold at this establishment. And I had the address, but I don't have the owner's name, so I don't know if they were notified. Not a big deal to me, because this establishment already sells beer, they already have a permit there. But it's just something that I noticed, we need to be more thorough in gathering information. Is there anybody else that has any more discussion or any more questions?
Yeah, I just have a problem with the driver's license as well, because I did not know you could have two driver's licenses.
You can't,
Well,
you can't
then-
drive it like you got two
Then one of
residents.
these gotta be wrong or right.
You can have one driver's license for two residents.
Because I live in Tennessee, I have Tennessee driver's license, but I do business in different states too, you know.
Right.
I present over there Tennessee license. License is just ID, right?
I understand, but if a guy says I've been here for 5 years,
But sometime I live.
and 30 days when you get here, you need to get a Tennessee driver's license, and then he presents an application to us with not a false document, but an improper document.
Yeah, I'll talk with
But he
him,
wants us to approve something with improper documents. I'm not
I'll talk with him
comfortable.
and I'll make sure that he change it to here, you know, because that is too bothering.
Any other question?
No further discussion? I'm gonna need a motion.
I'll make a motion, we approve.
We have a motion to approve? And a second? I think I'm gonna ask for a roll call vote on this. Mr. Cates? Yes. Mr. Fisher?
No.
Ms. Hummel?
No.
I'm sorry, Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton? Yes. I, as the chairman, will abstain. Is that 3-2 in favor of? Congratulations. You'll get your beer permit.
Might wanna look at those driver's licenses, though,
Yeah,
make sure
I'll
you're
just
compliant.
have to make sure that everyone fills it out and we'll keep it here. All right, thank you guys,
Thank you.
and we'll probably come and
Okay.
see you again for the business license and stuff pretty soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're on to number 6, review and discussion of on-premises beer permit application, Yashiki Cruz Gallegos. Do I have a motion to hear?
Motion?
Motion.
Okay. You guys are here. Is there any statements or anything you'd like to say?
We just opened up, and what good is a Mexican restaurant without some beer? So, here we are.
I
So you
understand.
got jokes, huh?
Rico, right?
Well, I think some of the questions this board's
got-
gonna have
I've
has
got a
kinda
couple.
already
You
come
wanna
up.
start?
Well, I was just gonna say, I think the same issues we had with the last one about the out-of-state IDs.
Okay, can I ask some questions?
Um,
Or you wanna go ahead?
well,
Let me
I'm
ask.
gonna give them a chance to address that first.
Well, I have Tennessee questions. I didn't have it when I applied, but I have now.
So you went and got, okay, well,
Can we?
I appreciate that. I can
I
too.
can't. I've got cataract surgery coming up. I have to see everything up close.
OMG.
I would like to point out, while people are looking
Thank
at that license who want to, number 21, she has the address and the names of the people, so I appreciate the due
It's
diligence.
Hidden Meadows.
Is anybody listening
That's
to
what's
me?
on here.
I'm talking about her age.
Thank you very much. I was just gonna point out, they went through the trouble of getting the names of the people who live in the house, and since it's the same building, it's gonna be the same address, so I appreciate that. Mr. Fisher, did you have some questions?
No, she showed us her answers. Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions? Is there any further discussion? We have a motion to accept.
Fisher, second.
Mr. Fisher seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, you got your beer permit. Okay. Seeing no other business before the beer board, do I have a motion to adjourn? And a second. We're adjourned.
Oh, we're gonna keep that. I'm gonna keep that and swap it for one of those breakfast meals. You good, you did good, I appreciate it. I do not want to discourage anybody. Now, if they go to illegal, but according to my understanding, as long as they got a social security card, they're okay. They've been vetted by the federal government.
You can be immigrant and not have it, or not be. I feel like
Let's try to sell his property up there. Property up there. Of 194.
What's he, we're not going to by the DHS. There's like 7 different classes.
Has he told you why?
No.
He'll be dead. And he's younger than me and you both. Hey, Mr. Allen. How you doing?
Yeah.
I'm good.
All right, how you doing?
I just want to say something to you. We're not trying to take.
I'm not allowed to ask you if you're immigrant, because that would be illegal.
I doubt we're gonna go. If it, all the growth plan is said, and if anything is done, then
But he marked on his application it was a corporation.
59, I'd love to go to 59.
Let me see that pen. What is it?
It's where you can scan it. She gave me some extras to hand out, but where you can scan this and see that road plan.
Oh, let me see that pen. That's freaking awesome. Yeah. Okay, you're in there.
You did it too. You fessed it too.
Oh.
I've got actually. I told Kim to go to Dollar Tree and get me some green beads to wear tomorrow. I'm not going to be here. You know, how long am I reading?
It's Did you see when I was up in Nashville last week? Last week, the Tennessee Titans, or not Tennessee Titans, Tennessee Volunteers were up there, and we were eating hamburger, and Jim goes, "Who are those black guys?" I said, "Oh, this is Tennessee Vols." And I said, "What did I say?" I went up there and got pictures with them, and these motherfuckers were giants and young, 25 years old. Ugh. But yeah, can I have that?
Before I moved here, I lived out in
Thank you.
Missouri, and I had my own well.
Oh, you just passing them out.
And had soda.
They match your
I loved it.
outfit.
I didn't know nothing.
When the last road plan was opened in 2007, Oakland took over a ton of land.
Uh-huh.
It was a memory of 40,000 acres. You remember?
Yeah, they took me.
Yeah, they sure did.
That's right.
And there's plenty of room for Oakland. There's no justification for me to forego floodplain land over the south side that take me in on the north.
I don't vote anyway, so I'm just telling you what I feel. I really feel that it'll never anything done, but I think you're wrong. If we don't take it, the county will, and I think you'll have more problem out of the county than us.
I have more confidence in the county than Oakland's track record on growth.
You realize that in 20 years, this county is not going to be a rural
It ain't gonna be the same.
You may not want to be in Fayette County. You don't want to be an apology. We're talking two people. I'm telling you what I think, you telling me what you think. It's not personal. Well, we have to go straight. I guess we can. Yes, it is. Yes, I agree. I'm not arguing with that. You know? All right, what happens when they come in, and this will happen sooner. I may live to see this when they widen 194, which they're gonna do. They got no choice.
They will at some point, but if we're not in charge of Oakland, the bridges up there would have to be replaced because they can't support a 4-lane. They now have to replace the bridges, and that's gonna cost TDOT a ton of money.
Let me say something. If I'm alive in 10 years, and they're widening that road, I want you to come tell me that again, because I'm gonna tell you, they're gonna widen it, and they're gonna widen it sooner than later. Because, and I'm gonna tell you what, that on-demand suppliers that Ford's got now, Ford gives them a time, and you gotta have that truck at that deck at that time. They have to have 3 ways to get to that point. Documented. Well, obviously one of them is 4. The other one is 64 to 194 straight up. And the third way is from the other side of it. Say me what it is.
I have found in the past that if you want to know the answer to something like money, you know who owns the property on all 4 corners at the intersection of 59
Hello.
Wilder, the Wilder family.
Oh, at 59, yes. Yeah, I know that, yes. But,
That's what's driving this.
but
I don't think.
if they do the 4-lane to 59, and they got those,
I'm talking about the road plan. I'll take that up with TDOT if and when they want to 4-lane us.
to my knowledge, we haven't got you. We don't have them in their whole plan tonight, do we?
Yeah.
Well, I think what the Oakland Planning Commission has is good.
I know. You know, I was on that plan commission.
We have.
But I've heard you say you want to get a more aggressive stance than that.
I am concerned about it, and I told you why. If we don't take it to county,
Well, as the mayor, would you try to serve within the positions of the planning commission while you're on the coordinating committee?
Miss Laura.
We don't take it to county judge.
Laura,
This is a 20 to 50-year growth plan.
I already submitted.
Now, what's gonna happen in the next 10
I already submitted that.
Anyway, that's, you know.
I submitted two for last year and this year.
I won't say a word. I promise.
No, not tonight.
I won't say a word anytime. As an individual, I have strong feelings on it. And you have.
Yeah, I made copies of two of them and submitted them both because I've got no conflict, never. But
Hey,
no,
it is what it is.
I'll do that now.
I respect your opinion, but I'm telling you,
All right.
somebody's gonna mess with you in 10 years.
There's always someone trying to put in your punch bowl.
Yeah.
The guy behind me was trying to put in a solar panel.
Oh yeah, Lord, you don't want that. You know what? If you know what that does to the ground.
Yes, I know.
Hey.
I got exposed to that in Missouri.
Hey,
I did mine on the roof, but there was a solar farm close to me. They really that land's good for nothing.
Ed,
They have TV lines across the property.
we,
Woody Welch owned the property. He was trying to put in a solar farm. I had to buy him out. But it cost him pretty penny.
Yeah.
But at least it's not solar. That would have been nice. But it destroys the soil. Water runoff.
we
But the
know
other
that.
thing, all that stuff they put underground, when the thing goes belly up, somebody's got to take that out. And it ruins it.
Ruins the ground.
I agree with you on solar farm, but I just, I tell you, I've been really. Do you ever go up in Illinois?
Sir?
Do you ever go up in Illinois much?
No, sir.
I go up to Rockford. Up there, I've got an 87-year-old brother-in-law up there, right outside of Rockford. I'm telling you, the big old windmills, they are all.
Well, hello. Are you okay now?
I stopped in a little rural, El Paso with a little rural.
Just kidney stones? That's it?
Yes, sir. And I asked the guy,
Huh.
how's this working out? He said a lot of solar. But then I found out that 200 eagles a year get killed. They've got 200 eagles too. They're
Are you,
averaging 200 eagles.
what are you, are you taking Patermir and all that? Okay, yes. That's what I was,
How much land do you got?
But the antibiotics can make my liver functions
of course.
worse.
What do you do?
I know.
It's like damage, you do damage.
That's
I'm
it.
septic, I gotta have them.
Yeah.
So hopefully when I get off the antibiotics,
Has your horse farm the one where all the right there beside the one?
It will. Well, no, that's mine. It will. That's how mine, you know,
Yes, sir.
all the stuff to save your liver ruins your kidney. And I'm like, what the fuck is it? You know, so they found the balance. Now I'm not on, I'm not on medicine for this, but I'm still on my kidney. So balanced out and we're good, so. But glad to see you.
I just came up here to talk to you.
I know, I appreciate that. Well, thank you very much.
Adrian actually called me. Said, I heard you were in the
I
hospital.
appreciate it.
See? Because when I heard that, I said, did you know Debbie Cox was in the hospital? He goes, what the hell's wrong with her? I went, oh my God.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
They didn't want to let me go. You know, they put these in cancer patients for chemo,
Yes.
and they don't want to let me out. I'm a nurse.
They wanted to do this to for my dialysis. I said, oh hell no. I will fix this bit myself. And it worked.
Yeah, so, I mean, what, do you know what your BUN creatinine levels are?
Right now,
Yeah.
I want to say, no, I don't.
See, my
I know it was down like 40%. Okay? And I'm right at the 40% mark, so I'm good there. I'm not, I mean, I just had my blood work done last week, and they said, you're good to go. And I was like, but yeah. And then if it ever gets screwed up,
normal BUN is 20 or below.
right.
Mine's 27.
Well, you're okay.
It's better than 40.
Well, the reason mine is high is because I had all this done.
Yeah.
And they said, you're fine. Nothing's wrong with you. But you're going to have to stay monitored for the rest of my life. I said, I have no problem. I know where you guys are. You know?
Well, because I was septic,
Yeah?
my energy, I mean, that's a hard problem.
Yeah.
So I limit myself to one thing a day. That's all I can do.
Like what?
I have a doctor's appointment. That's all I'm going to do.
Really?
My one thing for today was to come up here.
I don't know if that's a good thing or bad. Er. Huh? Ain't nothing but a thing to me.
Are you there?
I'm done with it. Yeah.
You see? And they. I don't want any of it. Here, wait a minute. That's one.
Recorded on wires
You see this?
16A. We were gonna do Doug.
Oh, they're nice. They're in my briefcase. I got approved and denied.
See? Didn't have Doug do it. Yeah. Wouldn't you laugh, big boy?
All right, good to see you. I just want to make sure you knew I was here, so you can call
Okay,
me.
thank you.
Hey,
Well, you know what?
Jay?
If they don't show up, Jay was gonna take it.
could you give that to Laura? Tell her to stick it in the file. What is wrong with people?
Your humor is not setting well
No
today.
kidding. Laura's here. Oh, Jay took it. Jay took it. Hello. All right.
Get yours on. Is it on? Is it on?
No, should I turn it on now?
Yeah, I did. Just watch what you say.
That way I won't forget.
Just watch what you say.
I'm missing the second page of the agenda. Thank you, sir. I need a lot of help. Thank you, Yvonne. Now, this is fine. This is fine.
Did you turn your billboard stuff back in?
Nah.
You turn your billboard stuff back in?
Am I supposed to turn it back in?
Yeah, 'cause it's got Social Security now. Give it to Yvonne after the movie.
I have 7 o'clock. It is our custom to start our meetings with a pledge and a prayer, so if you please stand. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Cates.
Dear gracious Heavenly Father, we just thank you so much for this day. We just praise you for who you are. I pray for our town. Lord, I just pray that you'll just lay your hand upon our town and our community. Keep us safe. Be with all those who's sick, Lord, and pray that you would just lay a healing hand on them. Pray with us, be with our board tonight, Lord, as we make decisions for our town. Pray that you will just give us the wisdom and knowledge to make the right decisions for our citizens and for our town. Just go with us and watch over us, and I pray that everything we say and do will be pleasing to you. Pray this thing in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Ms. Yvonne, we have a quorum. I would ask you to look at the agenda, and do we have any additions or deletions?
Are we just looking at the special call meeting or both?
We're looking at tonight's agenda.
I'm sorry, tonight's agenda.
Looking for any deletions or additions to tonight's agenda. Mr. Johnson, do you have anything?
I have one thing.
Okay, Mr. Wiggins?
On page 3, item number 15, letter A, it says public hearing, second reading. That is inaccurate. This is the first time we're hearing this.
The word second reading is incorrect. It's a public hearing on the resolution as required by state statute, but you're correct. It's not second reading. It's strictly a public hearing.
Okay. Anyone else have any corrections or changes?
Move to approve the agenda.
Have a motion from Mr. Wiggins to approve the agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second from Mr. Cates. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, moving on. I'll ask you to review the minutes from the regular meeting on February 16th, and with proper time, when everybody's ready, I'll take a motion.
On February 16th.
So long we do.
I have again on page, I believe on page 3. If you look at the E, Resolution 2321, if you go down to the second paragraph, about midway through, it says that voting in favor was Hummel, Wiggins, and Cates, and then opposing was Fisher and Cates. My recollection is Fisher and Cates were opposed, Hummel and Wiggins were for, and then Mayor Brown cast a deciding vote.
Yeah, be sure to get that one, because I don't get to vote very often. I'm sure you're recording in. Anything else?
Motion to approve?
Have a motion from Mr. Wiggins to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second from Mr. Cates. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain.
Got an abstain. All right. Ms.
I wasn't
Holmes?
here, I
Oh.
can't attest to what was said.
Okay, I understand. Ask you to move down to B, special meeting on February 23rd. After review, I'll take a motion.
Move to approve?
Have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second from Mr. Fisher. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, at this time in our meeting, we have comments from citizens. These comments are open for any Oakland citizen to be heard on items and concerns not included on this agenda. Citizens are able to be recognized by chair and come to the front of the room before speaking. Each speaker shall state their name and address for the record. The mayor and board of aldermen shall make no decisions or considerations of actions of citizens' comments, except to refer to the town manager for administrative consideration or to schedule the matter for the mayor and board of aldermen to consider at a later date. Speakers shall limit their comments to 3 minutes unless allowed by the chair. Speakers shall be limited to their comments to one subject. Do I have anyone who wishes to speak? Yes, sir. Come forward. State your name and your address, please.
Hello, everyone. I'm Seth Livesay. I live at 20 Windy Cove. And
I'm Brenda Livesay, and I also live at 20 Windy Cove.
Okay.
we've been residents of Oakland for nearly 15 years. We have 2 children that have been involved in a lot of sports in this community. And Oakland Park and Recs is one of the very many things that are offered to our kids that impact a lot of our youth in this community. Recently, we were made aware that one of our most favorite coaches was let go, and I would just like to know if there can be any explanation as to why. It's impacted our kids. I'm sure it's impacted many other children in this community, and I was just, again,
Wonder if you had any comments on that?
wondering if
I will respond that the board of aldermen made no decision on anybody, and that needs to be well understood. So I don't speak for individuals, but I will speak for this board. It's in our minutes record. We didn't do that. We don't have it. So that's what I'll answer you with.
Okay. Anybody else?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
if I may, and I'm not speaking for the board, I'm speaking for my prospective city manager, but I think it probably is at least information the board is aware of. While there were many parents very supportive of that coach, I received many calls and emails and text disputing that coach's behavior, mannerisms, and all. So, as with many things, there's two sides to the story.
Okay?
I would just merely ask, since those were made public record, if he could disseminate them to the board, the messages and text, email message and text about the people that was discouraged about it. I saw plenty in support of him, but I would love to see those email and text of the people that were not supportive of it.
That goes back to last fall or before. I'd have to go through and research those.
This is gonna be brought up under my comments.
Okay. All right. Anybody else want to comment? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else wish to speak to the board tonight? Mr. Allen, did you want to speak to the board tonight?
I do, but I was gonna wait for the public hearing.
Okay, all right. I wanted to make sure that I got you if you wanted to speak right now.
I didn't want to speak out of turn.
Okay, I got you, sir. Just help me remember when the public hearing comes.
I won't let you forget.
All right. I bet you won't. Okay, anybody else want to speak? All right, I will declare this part of our board meeting closed and move on. The mayor has no comments. Comments from aldermen. We'll start on the far end down there with Mr. Sutton. You have any comments, Mr. Sutton?
I do, and I can't tell you the correspondence that I had over this coach, okay? And all of them were in favor of him. It was understood that this board had a meeting, and I replied, and my emails, I keep them, and so I've got them. But my reply was that I had no part in any meeting that decided who coached teams or anything else with Park and Rec. And so I just wanted on public record that I had absolutely nothing to do with telling somebody that they couldn't coach in our programs. That's all I gotta say.
Okay.
And the other thing I'll say is regarding garbage pickup. I'm somebody that don't care if my garbage gets picked up on Monday or Tuesday. But I will say this, there's a lot of people that do care. And I don't know is that on the agenda anywhere tonight?
It is not.
So I don't know how many of y'all get called about this garbage, but it is a big deal. And you know, I explained this to a citizen, so I also want to get this out there, but garbage companies are not sitting around with trucks and manpower to service a town of our size. If we fired this one tomorrow, or told them they breached the contract and it was over with, we would have nobody to pick our garbage up. Because once they get the bid, if you'll notice, when this company got it, they rented trucks. They didn't have their name on them. And they probably hired people. But I don't know what the answer is to this. I don't, especially since the current company and the other one are owned by the same people. I don't even remember how many bids we had, but I thought it was 2. And that was and now those people are owned by the same people. And I don't really know what the solution to this problem was. I do know that I asked to look into what can we do to them if they are not fulfilling their contract. Did they put up a bond, an amount of money to do business in the town based on the bid of the contract? And is there anything we can do? Because I think the only thing that's gonna hurt them is getting that pocketbook. And so I would love for us to look in, did they have to put one up? Or is that something where they didn't have to put one up? But I know everybody else that builds and does work in the town, they have to put up a bond. And then if they don't fulfill their obligations, the town can go after that money. And I'm tired of talking about this company, and I'm sure everybody else is. But they either need to do their job, or we need to get somebody else. I don't know how, or take it over ourselves, and I don't think anybody in our town really would want us to do that, because we would really pay a lot of money if we took that over ourselves. I do wanna go to some organizations and find out that do their own garbage, how many trucks and manpowers it takes, how much can a truck service in a day. I don't have any idea how many trucks we'd have to buy, or how many people that would have to work on it. I don't have any idea. But I'd like to see if that's something, a possibility, because I think that's the only way to fix it is to have your own, and I don't think that's the answer.
Okay?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I know this may be out of order, but could I address that for a moment?
Yes, sir, you can, because we need to get the word out.
I'll go back, I thought we provided you that information in the bond, but I'll go back and do that. I'll share with this board, the aldermen, about half the cities I've been with, we operated the solid waste collection as a city service. Depending on whether you use rear loaders or automated side loaders, you're looking between 400 and 600 homes a day for service. So for the town of Oakland, we need 2, and then probably a third one for specialized pickups. So, I mean, your one point was very correct, sir. You're probably looking at a budget of $750 to $1 million a year. And the larger question we would have is disposal. Now, picking it up is the first part of the equation. It has to be hauled somewhere for proper disposal. And so that, there's a lot of factors to look at, but
Well, it does now though, right?
yes, but they own the landfill. To your point, what I wanted to say was, many cities do successfully operate solid waste collection.
Do you know off the top of your head what we pay them now a year?
It's roughly $55,000 a month. I couldn't tell you the exact amount, but roughly $55,000 a month.
Can I make a quick comment? I've done the math, well, I know where you're going with this. It's about $600,000 a year, and they're making a profit on $600,000 a year. And I hear what you're saying about us doing it, but I think that's something we should look into. And
I definitely wanna look into it.
run
I think
the
it's only way
numbers,
to fix it, is
run
to
the numbers
control
and check. If we can hire employees and operate trucks for less than $600,000 a year,
Well, since they have announced they're not gonna renew their contract, I think
We
we're
gotta
gonna
do
have a
something.
session, we're gonna have some work sessions on that, and you're gonna get the opportunity to look at it.
I thought it was our option to renew.
I believe it's either party. I believe the wording's either party. It's a 2-year contract,
They-
which expires at the end of this year.
And they've said they don't wanna renew already, they told us
If
that.
you'll recall, sir, that some of you may, when not on the board, there was a very wide spread between the low bid and the second bidder. As Mr. Sutton said, there were only 2 bids, and it was just under $5 per home per month on the bid. I mean, it was a significant difference.
Okay, anything else, Mr. Sutton?
No, sir.
Okay, Mr. Cates?
Yeah, I got a couple things. To further what Ken's saying, I think it's good that we're going around cleaning up brush in our town. But I seen our boom truck out picking up stuff that I know part of it, no doubt, did from one of the renter homes. And a lot of it is just people that's thrown out. Are we gonna get a refund from the garbage people for doing their job?
Sir, I'll have to defer. The only pickup with the knuckle boom truck that I'm aware of was related to storm debris. I'd have to find out more information. I don't know about anything related to homes.
The brush at Clay Pond was picked up. I don't know if they picked it up or they did, but I know for a fact that they, when they repaired that house, they put it out there. I saw them do it.
Right here, Clay Street on the corner. We picked
Yes,
it
sir.
up this morning, but it looked like storm debris up.
But I know they put that out there, so.
I might get an email saying pick it up. Pick it up if I don't.
So based on 55,000 a month, that puts us at about 4,600 homes. Is that about right?
Yes, sir, that's about right. And I'm sorry, I don't remember the exact number. The census was 44 something, 4,400 some odd on the census.
Okay, Mr. Cates, you have anything else?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
I'd like to address Alderman Fisher with who gave him the right to call the coach and tell him that he wasn't no longer needed.
What do you mean?
The email I got said you called him.
I did.
Who gave you that opportunity or give you the power to call somebody like that?
I had a conversation with Mr. Jay Johnson, and I asked him he sent out a letter to this gentleman, and this gentleman didn't get the hint. And Mr. Johnson was trying to be a little, nice about it. He didn't get the hint. So I asked Mr. Johnson, would you like me to call him? And he said, yes. So I called him.
Is that true?
And I said, your services are no longer needed with the Parks and Rec. That was it. He said, thank you very much. Have a nice day.
I could bring this up that was brought up a while ago about the meeting. Was it ever a meeting? I know I wasn't there. I had nothing to do with that meeting, and I want that on record. The email I got said that the board had a meeting and all the board members voted for this. I had
Okay.
nothing to do with that.
Nobody said that.
I got the email,
You may have
Mr.
got the
Fisher.
email,
I
but
got
it's
the-
not right.
I said I got the
Okay?
email. I
That's what
didn't say
said.
you
may have
sent
got
it.
the email,
I said I
but it
got
is
it.
not correct.
But I
So
just
do not
asked
bring
you.
assumptions here to this board and accuse me of doing something that I did not do.
I didn't say you
That
did.
I will
I
not
asked you,
stand.
did you do it?
Fisher, don't get too
I asked you,
Okay?
did you do
And
it?
I told you what I did. And then you brought in assumptions of, we had a meeting. I said, no, nobody said that. He assumed, and next thing you know, now you're acting like this.
I didn't
I'm
know-
gonna be mad when somebody accuses me of doing something that did not happen.
Well, that's the way I am. I was
That's
accused
fair.
of being at a meeting too, so
That's-
I was
you
not
weren't
in a meeting.
I didn't say you were at a
All right,
meeting.
gentlemen, I have already stated to the public and for the record that this board did not have a meeting. We did not vote on anything. Mr. Fisher made a phone call on his own. Mr. Cates, I don't blame you for being upset,
I've got one more.
okay?
Hold up, I wanna say something, and I'm not getting on anybody or anything, I've made mistakes in my life. But, Mr. Johnson can't tell you what to do. You're in a position where you tell Mr. Johnson what to do as the board. We do it here and we tell him. We don't work for him, he works for us. And so, first of all, Mr. Johnson can't tell you to do something that'd be okay for you to do it, even if he did. And you said he did, I believe he did. So, but still, as board members, we cannot take direction from any individual to give us any power. We have to get our power from this board, which is a majority of our votes. And that's the only way we can tell somebody what to do, is by this board agreeing on something, voting on it, and then saying, or delegating somebody to do that. And I just wanna be cautious, this is already done. There's nothing we can go back and do that's gonna change this, okay? Our park and rec program is, we don't have one right now. We're not having a soccer program. And so that's what bothers me the most, is these kids we're not providing a program for these kids to play in. And if that's the case, that there was several emails and text messages that they didn't wanna be associated with it, now those kids have nowhere to play, because that's their only option, to play over there with that group. And that's what alarms me, is these kids not having a place to play. And you know, that tends to be more competitive when some of these families don't wanna be competitive. They just want their kids to be active and out there playing. And so, just to prevent this from ever happening again and us not provide the kids, we need to be very careful and make decisions as a whole before we go out there and say something that may be detrimental to the citizens of the town. And that's all I got to say.
Mr. Cates,
I've
can I
got
make
one more other thing.
All right.
In the special call meeting, February the 7th, I guess, or when it was, January 23rd, I got it, and I got a copy on my computer. This board decided that we would go through MTS to get a replacement for Mr. Johnson like we did when we hired him. Everybody on this board voted for it. I see where Mr. Fisher had called down to MTS and didn't really like that direction. He wanted to get a consultant. Did you do that?
Where do you get your information from?
From an email.
Okay, let me explain your emails. Stop listening to them. I called MTAS way before we had a meeting, and I asked, how is the procedure to go? He explained, we accept his resignation, and then you go to MTAS, and you ask, Mr. Johnson is going to resign, and we're going to go through the proper channels. What's the proper channels? He gave me the proper channels, and he sent me 5 lists of outside vendors called headhunters. Do you know what that is?
Yeah, it's like a
who would,
consultant.
headhunters who would look for their position. After the meeting, I gave Mr. Johnson that letter, said, this is what MTS sent me. If you want to do that, fine. If you don't, we voted to go to MTS.
Right.
Nobody argued that. It was done prior to that. You're getting emails, which is BS.
When did you get that?
Again,
When did you get that email, Mr. Johnson, that I saw, that I asked for?
At the end of the meeting on that evening, I think it was February 23rd, whatever it was. At the end of the meeting, Mr. Fisher asked to meet with me in my office for a few minutes. That was the topic. He shared with me the email that he had received from Rick Whitehead, the consultant with MTS. We talked about that for a minute. I said the board has voted to use them and not an executive search firm. It was at the conclusion of that meeting that the discussion about the soccer coach came up. That wasn't even really the purpose of why Mr. Fisher and I were meeting initially. But I got that email that you're talking about, I got that from Mr. Fisher.
Who was in that meeting with you?
It was the two of us to start with, and then the vice mayor came in towards the very end of it. I forget exactly when, but towards the vice.
Was it any discussion about the coach when he was in there?
Probably so. I couldn't say, but probably so.
That's all I got, thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, Ms. Hummel?
I have nothing to report. I was not in any meeting. I was only in a hallway when Mr. Johnson and Mr. Fisher were probably talking. I was nowhere around because I leave pretty promptly after the meetings. So I'm not aware of any discussions.
All right. Mr. Fisher?
nobody said we had a meeting. He assumed, but Mr. Johnson and I meet regularly.
Okay. Anything else?
No?
Ms. Wiggins?
Tonight, I want to recognize the life of Ronnie Lewis, a former Oakland employee who very unexpectedly passed away just last month. He was a fine employee. He was a great friend, a pleasure to be around. I'm not sure, but I think he might have been a Tennessee Titans fan. When somebody like that passes, it leaves a hole, especially as suddenly as it happened. And just my condolences to his coworkers, his friends, and his family.
Okay. I'll see.
I'd also like to thank the mayor for the proclamation for Mr. Lewis.
Okay. Any other comments? Ms. Wiggins?
No, sir.
All right, that concludes our board members' comments.
Well, that was Mr. Fisher's, and I think he neglected to bring that up.
Okay, well, Mr. Fisher just said he didn't have any comments.
No, I'm not gonna bring this up till later.
Okay, all right. All right, we're moving on then. Move to number 9, consideration of department reports. Any department head wish to make a report tonight? Mr. Mullins, I will make a comment to you. You're earning your money. And I thank you very much. And the boom truck's working well, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Look good.
And the work you've been doing out there filling potholes in the road, I appreciate it.
I have a quick question.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Hodges, it's a lot of paper and a lot of numbers. Are we on budget, and do we still have money?
We do.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question for our Director of Water Department, Eric. Of course, you know, beside my house, y'all had a major ordeal. Yes, sir. At water main. And I come up there and was looking, and I was amazed at the work y'all did. I was absolutely amazed. But I was also concerned for the safety of our people, and what I mean is, I don't think that we have the proper equipment to do that in depth of work. And I mean, if this thing would have been this much deeper, there's no way they could ever correct it, because the backhoe wouldn't have got down there to it. And then y'all should see them work this machinery, and Mr. Mullins is out there helping them as well. And, Chris was another machine operator. But not only do they have to dig these holes, they have other utilities there that they can't mess up. There was a gas line that run across it. And they had to go in there and get that from out around there. A lot of hand manual labor. And I took several pictures that I'm gonna get printed off and share with the board of the work that they did that night. But it was absolutely amazing, and I can't thank y'all enough for what y'all did. But I would love to see what else y'all could use. The other thing that bothered me is watching y'all cut that stuff. And I'm not sure that we have the equipment that we need, and y'all had to be so careful not to crack it more because of the machine. And I'm sure they make something.
They do, and we're checking into that currently.
And I mean, but they just ad-libbed and used the resources they had to do this major job. And I'm gonna tell you, I've seen a lot of these jobs done in Oakland. And most of the time, it's an outside contractor brought in to do that. And this saved us thousands of dollars.
And quicker.
Oh, yeah, we would have been Monday for sure.
Mayor,
Yes.
may I elaborate? Mr. Sutton is absolutely correct in the compliments towards our employees, but I want to go back. That break occurred because a subcontractor to a utility company simply didn't take any precautions or any measures to do a job properly. They, as you say, they hit our water line. They missed Somerville's natural gas line by inches. I mean, and you're going to hear another item later in tonight's agenda. These subcontractors to utility companies are driving us nuts. Most of them aren't as serious as this, but we're having some real issues in water.
I did have a question, and they may not know the answer because they don't put this down, but what is the difference in the depth, Eric, of where they should have been compared to where they were?
About 3 foot difference.
3 foot?
They should have been around 3 foot deep, 2 to 3 foot. They were about 6.5.
Ooh. Are they held responsible?
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Fisher.
Chief, you got something to say?
Yeah, in just a minute.
Well, it's his turn.
One more thing, I want to piggyback on that if I may.
Oh, my God. Go ahead.
Okay, you
I'm
want to?
good.
You
I
okay?
was trying to recognize the chief. but-
Okay, we'll get him in a second, I promise. Chief, I'll get you.
Thank you. Also,
All right, Ms. Holmes.
thank you, sir. Also, Mr. J, the contractor, whoever he dug that up and made up this horrendous mess that we had, it's my understanding that we will send them the bill for everything.
Yes, ma'am.
So we'll recoup that money back and all that work we had to go through. Is there penalties to these people for when they made this major catastrophe happen, or is there a penalty clause for when they do something egregious?
You had a major gas breach by a subcontractor of the on Bowers Road, the Somerville gas line. It cost Somerville hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now, there was a lot of insurance coverage there, but no, there's no
Penalty.
penalty.
Okay, that's all I have, thank you.
Okay. Chief, did you want to say something?
Yeah, just real quick. First off, when the contractors put the fiber optic cable in, they cut every other house, they cut a gas line on. And, I mean, seriously, it was bad. I just wanted to mention this. We got 2 of these in the mail, and I was kind of surprised. Ms. Humble had notified me a while back, I mean, months and months ago, that she had put in for a grant for pet resuscitation devices. And being open, I said, oh, that's really neat, we'll never hear anything from it. Well, she followed up on it again, and we'll never hear anything from it. Well, this box come in the mail, and didn't have a clue what it was, but I'm always excited about getting something. And so open it up, and they were the 2 pet resuscitating devices. And it's by a group called Mona Pants, which that's the name of her dog, the lady that does this. They collect money to help police same stuff that we've used on people to try to resuscitate the animals, because I know to me, my dog is just like my kid. And we take the same chances to get pets out that we do people. I know that's kind of dumb, but we do. But we got these in the mail, and I was surprised. And then, which I want to thank you for, because they're pretty complicated compared to what we were doing. We got them for dogs, cats, and instead of using a regular human resuscitation equipment, we actually have the stuff to do it. We're trained in animal CPR. Now we got more equipment to work with. So I really want to recognize you and thank you for this, and I never thought we'd get it.
Thank you, Dan.
Well,
Thank you very much.
I will say that they collected enough money to purchase Mona Pants Foundation, is what they're called, to get 126 of these to distribute nationwide. And I hurried up, looked like someone on the internet going, you know, we got to get one. And we got two, so I was really excited about it.
Good deal.
Just to be clear, firemen like dogs?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And not spotted.
Not spotted.
Yes.
Mr. Fisher?
Hot dogs?
Chief Earl, are you out there?
Oh, he's walking.
I'd like to welcome Chief Earl back to our meetings because he's been gone for a little while. He's been on vacation. He's been in Hawaii. But welcome back. Glad to see you.
He rode his a lot longer than I did mine.
It's gonna be hard for anybody to top them dog resuscitators.
You're right about that. Anything else for the department chairs?
No.
If not, Mr. J, you have anything tonight?
Nothing further this evening.
Okay. Moving down, I will now declare the public hearing on the Town of Oakland Urban Growth Map Plan Proposal Amendments open. And I think we have some people that want to have some discussion. Mr. J, do you want to make a comment before we start discussion?
The Fayette County has opened up the urban growth map, and for a community to submit a request, there has to be 2 public hearings. This would be the second. At your meeting next month would be a resolution to formally submit this plan or any variation of this plan that might be to the Fayette County Urban Growth Coordinating Committee. And so that's the purpose of the hearing tonight. And you have the map at the top is the map that shows all the areas, and then the planning director has provided 3 maps that blow up some of the property being discussed.
We have anybody in the audience who wishes to comment? Mr. Allen? I would like to make one comment. Mr. Allen has interest in this because there's been some discussion of his land possibly being part of our urban growth boundary, and that's why I asked him to make us talk tonight. Mr. Allen?
I appreciate the latitude, Mr. Mayor. Sure all of you know what I'm going to say tonight. Please bear with me. I had to put my thoughts on paper. I'm getting to the age where if I don't write something down, I just won't remember it. So be patient with me as I read through this. I'd like to ask that all of you keep an open mind to adopting the plan approved by Oakland's Planning Commission. I attended those meetings, and I can assure you, your planning commission put a lot of work into that plan. They were deliberate and thoughtful in their process. To their credit, they were able to strike a balance between those who wish to be included in the UGB and respected the wishes of those who do not. My family, Dr. Seaton's family, the Trout family, and the Leases, we live on the north side of Feathers Chapel at the intersection of Highway 194. I've shared with most of you our desire to remain outside Oakland's UGB. Feathers Chapel Drive is currently the northern boundary of Oakland's UGB. This was done by design and for a very specific reason. The area north of Feathers Chapel is low topography. FEMA has recognized much of this area as 500-year flood zone and floodplain, particularly along the Loosahatchee and Treadwell Creek area. As a 35-year resident of Fayette County, I can recently as last January, the intersection of Highway 194 and Feathers Chapel was reduced to one lane due to flooding. These flood-prone areas north of Feathers Chapel are good for farming and soil enrichment, but not so much for municipal development. The rationale for adding land to Oakland's UGB should be guided by the city being in a position to better able to provide urban services than any other municipality. Running water and sewer, projecting municipal fire and police services across a rural area that doesn't lend itself to development would be a misallocation of the city's future resources and taxpayer dollars. Over the last 20, 25 years, this predates all of you, prior to any of you getting elected, Oakland in the past has made some very peculiar decisions with respect to their growth. Now, all of you are having to manage and fund the costs associated with those decisions. Historically, the city is annexed by request from property owners, most of whom are developers. This has been described by some as allowing developers to do the town's planning. As a result, we've seen some erratic, scattergun type development patterns, particularly around the Hidden Springs subdivision, all of which is connected with strip annexation down the south side of Highway 194. Now, in 2023, the practice of annexation by owner request has been codified in Public Chapter 707. However, it still leaves some questions with respect to Oakland's growth unresolved. For example, non-contiguous annexation within its UGB as addressed in Public Chapter 399. Secondly, the ability of non-resident or out-of-state or corporately owned landowners to participate in annexation requests and how it could adversely affect the property value and quality of life of the existing residents. Corporations and investment firms that now own hundreds of rental homes in Oakland have no concern or loyalty to the existing residents. Neither would corporate landowners seeking annexation or inclusion into Oakland's UGB. Those of us in the Feathers Chapel community who have chosen to live outside Oakland's UGB, we are happy with our level of services and feel that future development should be consistent with the existing development. And we feel that those decisions are best made at the county level. Let's let Oakland grow from the inside out, not the other way around. In 2007, Oakland expanded their UGB on a massive scale, consisting of almost 10% of the land in Fayette County. After 17 years of consistent growth, the undeveloped land within the current UGB, according to city planner Mr. Porton, is 3 times the size of the existing city limits. Oakland still has plenty of room to grow. Please don't let this turn into a municipal land grab without any real practical way of providing services to the area that was added. Finally, and respectfully, as your neighbors on the north side, we want to be good neighbors. We shop in Oakland, and we want Oakland to be successful. We want you to prosper. We ask that y'all be good neighbors to us too, and consider our wishes as the process moves forward. Mayor, Alderman, I appreciate your time.
My comment to you, and this is for the public, not for you, at this time, the area that Mr. Allen is talking about is not in our urban growth plan that we submitted to the county, is it, Mr. Johnson?
No, sir, it's not.
Okay.
Give credit where credit's due. I thought the planning commission did a good job, and I don't mind saying that. And again, I hope you'll keep it up in mind to accepting their recommendation.
Okay.
Y'all.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to speak on the urban growth plan? Okay, hearing nothing, I will declare the public hearing closed. We will move down to the consent agenda. On the consent agenda, these are items that the board has been determined to be items deemed by the board of mayor and board of aldermen to be non-controversial and routine in nature and will be approved by one motion. The items on the consent agenda will not be individually discussed. Any member of the board and mayor may desiring to discuss may withdraw, has to be withdrawn or taken out of the consent agenda. It will then be placed on the agenda in a regular order, and request to remove an item from the consent agenda will not be debated. Does anybody want anything removed from the consent agenda? Okay, hearing that, I will take a motion when ready.
May I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
You know what? Never mind.
Okay?
Oh, let me, on two of these contracts we have, we're authorizing extending for a 1-year extension. Is it in our current contract that we have that option?
I can't address both of them. In D, it was not. However, the situation we find ourselves in that, the services were not bid for this spring. So if we're going to have turf management on our athletic fields this spring, extending the current contract made the most sense. And I believe, the gentleman's here, but I believe it was at the same terms and conditions. Yeah, same terms and conditions as the previous year.
And we're not gonna get in any trouble for not bidding this out? Or is that a question for Mr. Minor?
I don't know the amount of the contract.
It's $5,000 some odd dollars. I believe.
Then under that ordinance, it needs to be addressed, it would be okay to do this.
I thought it was more than that.
It's under 10,000, right?
I'm sorry, $9,215.
It's under 10.
It's under
Okay.
10.
But that's something that we gotta get in the workshop and reconcile.
I understand.
My question, since you brought that up, is do we need to spend $9,000 when we're not having a spring soccer program there?
Well, obviously that thought crossed my
I
mind as
make a
well.
motion to remove this off the agenda. We've already discussed it so much. And then we can discuss it, right? Because ain't that what we're supposed to be doing?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion to remove item, D. Will
I'll
be-
second that, Mayor.
Will be removed. You don't have to vote on it, you can request it, he's
Awesome.
requested it. We will move that to a further point at the end of the agenda.
Which one is that, Mr. Mayor?
Number D,
At the bottom.
authorizing
D.
1-year extension with Mid-South Turf Professionals. Okay?
We have this lengthy report also on the on TDEC wastewater treatment. Is this did this come back favorable?
Oh, yes, sir.
I think that needs to be said.
Okay. Are we good on the consent agenda? Everybody good?
May I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Are we moving that to another portion of the agenda, or are we removing it, period?
Moving it to another portion of the
We're
agenda.
gonna remove it, will be not removed from the consent agenda.
Just remove so it can be discussed, because we're not supposed to be discussing it if it's not removed.
Ms. Yvonne,
Would that go under
we
new
are
business?
removing the request at the request of a board member. We will move it to the end of the agenda tonight.
Thank you.
Okay,
Mayor, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda
as amended,
as amended.
okay?
Second?
Have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as amended. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving on to old business. I will declare a public hearing open on ordinance 2304, amending the city code title 5, chapter 3, purchasing. Mr. J.
This ordinance adds language related to the use of the city card, city credit card and petty cash fund. It's an expansion, more verbiage, more delineation from what's in the current code.
Any discussion from the
Do
board?
we have to open,
It's open.
you open a public hearing? Yes, I do. Let me get there.
Need to close the public hearing first.
Yes.
Okay. Does anybody wish to address the board on the public hearing? Hearing none, I will declare the public hearing closed. Members of the board, do you have questions for Mr. Johnson?
I have one question. I thought in this language it says to buy items that cost less than $100. That seemed like a low amount to me. I thought it should be somewhere around the $300 or $500 range, to be honest with you. Especially in this day and age. I mean, we could take a truck and it might be $100 worth of get.
That is in I'm sorry, sir, that's in reference to petty cash. that $100 is in reference to petty cash, which is,
Okay.
that's the amount that we
I
normally.
understand. So if it's
normally
over
keep.
that,
Yeah.
I understand.
Okay. Any other questions from the board before I move on? Okay. We'll move down to B, consideration of resolution 2302 awarding the bid for fire station number 1 building.
Mayor,
Do
you
we
have
need
to
a vote on this?
Yeah.
Did-
On A?
Yeah,
This is an ordinance.
2304.
Okay, I thought this was a public hearing.
it's also a vote, I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm
Also.
sorry, I did not understand we had to vote tonight, I thought it would be voted later. Have a motion on ordinance 2304.
So
amending the
move.
City code. Have a motion, Vice Mayor Wiggins, do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second from Ms. Hummel, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Apologize for that, did not realize we had to vote. Okay, moving on, consideration of resolution 2302, awarding a bid for fire station number 1 building additions and improvements, and fire fund continued from February 16th. Do I have a motion to hear?
Motion to hear.
Have a motion from Vice Mayor Wiggins,
Second.
Mr. Johnson.
Ladies and gentlemen, the architect could not be here for tonight's meeting, and we'd ask that item be deferred to your next meeting.
Didn't we defer this last month?
We did.
I move to defer.
Second.
Have a motion to defer, by Mr. Wiggins, have a second from Mr. Fisher, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, moving down to C. Considering resolution 2310, a resolution authorizing an amendment to the professional service agreement with King Engineering on road improvements, Whitrow extended, continued from February 16th. Motion to hear.
So move.
Have a motion from Mr. Wiggins. Mr. Johnson.
Mayor and Board, if you'll allow, this is going to be a little unusual. The staff is requesting that the resolution as presented be withdrawn. We do not wish to move forward with amending the contract with King Engineering at this time. The reason for that is what we would like to review with the board. And Mayor, may I go ahead?
Yes, sir.
First, since your last meeting, Acting Public Works Director Dennis Mullins and his crews have worked to use hot mix asphalt to fill the potholes and the failure areas on Wirt Road Extended. And they've done a very good job with what they were working with. And while that road is not what it needs to be, it's in much better condition than it was a month or two ago. Secondly, you all had asked for a lot of background information on how we find ourselves in the situation we do with Wirt Road Extended, and the bonds being in value of about $55,000, and the cost estimate to rebuild the road $190,000. Mr. Mullins can address part of that from his experience and his research, and Mr. Doug Swank is here, and he can inform the board on some of his knowledge and experience going back about 15 years or more when Wirt Road was first being developed. So, Mayor?
Okay, Mr. Mullins, you want to come up and give us a little of your experience with this?
Before you start, did you say that you wanted to remove this?
I want to ask that the board not consider the resolution amending the contract. We don't want to proceed with that. But this is to explain why
Okay.
we're removing that.
Well, we've been in the last couple of weeks fixing on it. I think we put 5 more tons on it, it'll be passable.
How many tons have you put on it so far?
10.
You think it'd hold up in the weather?
For now, yes, sir.
Hey, just,
I see no need to try to fix it right now, and they're fixing to put a new subdivision in, they're just gonna tear it off to pieces.
I agree with that.
what's the approximate cost that we spent doing this patchwork?
About $900 so far, not counting labor.
Better than 200,000.
Yeah. Amen, good job.
You're my favorite tonight, but don't tell the others.
That's almost as good as the dog resuscitation.
Almost.
Almost.
This road is set for a long time.
Yes.
That's the reason it's in the shape it's in. And, you know, we just wanna make sure that we get the best we can. And, you know, we got a lot of It's just, hell, I think it was about 5 or 6 years, maybe 8, before it would even ever roll back forward. And if you wanna go down there and look past the last, road to the left and the right, just look up there where no traffic's ever been. It's completely gone.
So you're building, so there's another development being built, and we need to wait,
It's upcoming, I don't know exactly when that is, but they've already got stakes in there, so it's coming.
but you think this will hold until they're done, and then we can do a permanent fix?
I think what we could do is just keep patching it like we're doing in the meanwhile, and we'll be good.
Mr. Mayor, I think it's important that you emphasize what you're doing is on the surface only. We've done nothing to address the base.
No, we have not messed with the base. I don't see no need to mess with it. The soil cement's still there. It's failing in places. Other than that, I would not mess with the soil cement right now. Good. If y'all wanna go further, I would suggest right now, like we talked about, chip and seal. If you wanted to go further, I believe that would hold, but you need to leave it alone. Don't dig the soil cement out.
But you think this will suffice for a few years? We can keep doing this at a low cost until we can actually solve it? Yeah, I'm just gonna say, I've been a little bit conflicted on this. I don't think there's anybody watching or listening that knows I have not done more than my due diligence on this, and I've kind of been pretty dogged about it. But on the other hand, I am concerned about those residents who have to live down there and drive on that road. So if this is a very inexpensive alternative to get us by until we can do a permanent fix, we're gonna have to do a permanent fix. I think that's what Mr. Swink is here to tell us, that we're gonna have to do it. And you know what? 14, 15 years ago, what's in that CD was probably enough to finish the job. It's the deterioration over time.
The homework we did, the price of cement or asphalt then, I don't think it would.
Okay.
From the guy that I got my information from.
I've been in talks with,
Than it is now.
I've been in talks with Mr. Corton. I think we're gonna come up with a fix for this so that this never, ever happens again.
Okay. Thank you, Dennis, appreciate it. I asked, when we had the discussion last month, I asked Mr. Swank to come tonight because Mr. Swank was involved in this whole thing from the very beginning. He was not a builder, but he is a developer, as you know, and he has history with this. So I asked him to come tonight and give us the history of this project. Mr. Swank?
Yes, sir, thank you. I do want to say I was not involved from the beginning.
I thought you were involved in anything that moved in this county, Mr. Swank.
But from the beginning of the problems, and if I can take just a minute and kind of go back and describe how we got involved and what the problems were. 2000 to 2007, I think Oakland doubled its population 3 times within 7 years and was growing mad. There were a lot of developments going. There were big phases going in. You know, today you see phases of 30, 40 lots. Back then there were phases of 100 lots going in. Because I want to say in 2006, we had maybe 363 building permits pulled that year, which we haven't even reached that today. So it was a lot going on. And I also want to say, in many ways, an inexperienced administration, because any community that gets hit with that much growth all at one time, I mean, you've got to learn a lot through the process. So what happened around 2007, as we all know, with the housing crash and then the world economic crash, most of the developments, I'm not going to say all of them, but most of the developments that had been started or were under construction or just recently completed in Oakland all went into foreclosure. The developers went bankrupt. Fairway Hills was one, the village of Fairway Hills was one, Cross Creek, Riverwood, Hidden Springs, Somerset. I think I've named most all of them that were going at that time that had just been started. And Fairway Hills is one of those. Bancorp South was the bank that ended up taking that back from the developer that had started it. So how we got involved was, fortunately, we were one of the few developers that didn't go under. So we ended up becoming a go-to for these banks that have received all these assets and had no idea what to do with them. And so they're looking at them and they're either half-finished, or they're deteriorating, or they were never done correctly in the first place. Their entitlements weren't wrapped up, development agreements. So they brought us in and said, can you analyze what we have? And quite frankly, we ended up analyzing a great number of subdivisions that were in Oakland for the various banks that had foreclosed on them, Fairway Hills being one. Some of the issues that we saw, the roads were falling apart at that point. And by the time they had called us and got us involved, it had sat there vacant for a couple of years. And I think, I'm not an expert in asphalt or anything else, but the way it's been explained to me is a road is very much like a house. If you build a house and then don't live in it for a few years and then come back to it, it's not the same house as you left. It's meant to be lived in, just like roads are meant to be driven on. And so we noticed that. We went back to the development contract with the original developer. The bond amount, I think, was $40,000. I don't think it was specifically said as it related to anything for the development, because we noticed that that was a common number for most of the developments, which was not anywhere close to what it was gonna take to make the repairs that had already been turned over to the town. So we came and met with the town. It was obvious that the town didn't have the funds to make those improvements, so we started looking and saying, how can this get done? Keep in mind, we're a consultant to a bank that's sitting on an asset that wants to sell it. So we basically use that as an opportunity to say, you've got an asset that's falling apart, you're gonna have to invest in that asphalt, in that investment. Fairway Hills, first phase, I think they went in, and there's some agreements with the town, that the town did away with the $40,000, knowing that it wasn't close to what it was gonna take to cover it. The bank came in, I think spent maybe $200,000 just fixing that phase A, and then later spent a fortune in phase B. How Work Road came about is we came to them and said, we've got a very dangerous asset. And I'm not gonna say how it was approved, I'm not sure how, but we had almost 100 lots coming out on one access point at that dangerous little Y intersection. That was really the only feasible way that you could get in and out of the development. Otherwise, you'd have to come out and drive around winding Work Road to try to find a way to get back there. And so the bank also had foreclosed on the property to the west of it. So they ended up owning all of that area. And I've got the plans, I'll turn them over to Mr. Minor, if this is helpful. These are the actual construction drawings that were done by Utility Solutions for Work Road. Yes. And this is actually the development agreement that was entered into with the town and the bank that didn't have to do this, but our recommendation was that if you're wanting to sell this asset, then you're gonna need to create a safe environment where when the economy does pick up, no one knew it was gonna take 10 years, everyone assumed at that point maybe just another year or two, that you needed to create an environment that a builder would wanna come and build in. Didn't feel like we would ever see that big rush again, so if you had an intelligent buyer looking at developments and seeing which ones they might wanna choose, because there's plenty to choose from, that they would choose one that was safe. And what we said is, you need to come in and construct Work Road. Because what we had were 3 roads that just all dead-ended and had one access point over on Work Road at that dangerous little Y intersection.
Sir, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
What is the date on this agreement between the town and the bank? June of 2012?
Yeah, like 2012, so
10,
5 years
10,
after.
11 years ago from now.
Yes. Yeah. About 5 years after it all went into foreclosure, it fell apart. Bank didn't want to hear it, they didn't really want to spend the money, but at the end of the day, they were sitting on those assets long enough that they listened to their consultants and said, we need to go ahead and build that. That was our recommendation for them to do that. They went back to an engineer that I think had originally done a lot of the engineering, and I was lucky enough to get copies of a lot of this, that's why I turned them over to you. And then entered into an agreement with the town, and then I'm not even sure which, but they hired some contractors to go out and build that road. That's kind of what I know. Riverwood was similar with the Bank of Bartlett. That Riverwood Drive was falling apart. It looked like the surface of the moon. That bond was $40,000. And the pressure was the banks were coming into the town and saying, hey, we got this asset, the roads were built, they were built to your standards, you inspected them, you need to come fix them. Well, that's great, but the old saying that you can't get blood out of a turnip. Town didn't have the money to fix it. Town was just gonna go toe to toe and say, we can't do it. The bank was really the one that had the most assets out there to lose. So Riverwood, I think they spent almost, I were involved in a lot of the developments that had gone back to banks, simply consulting with the banks. They all had erosion and sediment control. TDEC was issuing them notices of violations. I mean, I remember the banks calling and saying, who is this TDEC that's saying they're gonna fine me $10,000 a day? So we just helped them walk through the development process, not developing it for them, but consulting with them. And so that's really the history. It wasn't the original developer that did that. It was the bank that foreclosed on it, that voluntarily constructed it to create a better environment for the asset that they had foreclosed on so that they could then sell that later, if that makes sense.
So just to be clear, they put the base layer in, but no one ever came back and topped it. Is that where you, I mean,
I was out of it at that point. My assumption would have been that they would have either put the final asphalt down or put the money up for the final asphalt.
okay.
And I think Oakland's had a couple of different ways of doing that. I know I've seen that in the development agreement. Sometimes it was a letter of credit and the developer had to put it in, and other times it was a payment made to the town, and the town would then put it in with that money.
Yeah, that's the formal
It-
way, and the first one is the new way,
Yes.
where the developer goes ahead and puts the final portion in.
I think the former one, my guess is that more than likely there was a letter of credit that was put up for the final asphalt, and it was left to the town at whatever time or discretion that they wanted to install that.
I'm only asking because unless I misheard you, you said the bank came in and fixed the road,
Built it from scratch.
built it from scratch, okay? But we know that the top coat was never put on. So when you say built it, they did the base layer,
Yes.
and that's as far as they
They
went.
put in the drainage, the base, the curb and gutter, all of the various aspects, and then the initial surface,
Right.
base surface of asphalt.
Right.
And I didn't go all the way through this development agreement. I was just fortunate enough to know that I had a copy of it, so I pulled it together. I didn't read that. It may be in that development agreement as to whether or not they were responsible or whether or not the money that they gave to the town, it was the town that was gonna go back and put the final asphalt in at some time.
And the reason that it's costing so much right now is because it's sat there 4 years with nothing being done and has deteriorated. So now we have to go and tear all that out, put a new base layer and then a top coat. Is that a good summation?
Well, there's gonna have to be, as the engineer has described to me, an FDR, full depth reclamation,
Yes.
which I have learned a lot about in the last 6 weeks.
That's what the Bank of Bartlett had to do there on Riverwood, was a full reclamation of that.
Thanks to the speed reading of our city recorder, paragraph 11B of this development agreement that was provided by Mr. Swing says that it's the town's sole responsibility to apply the final course of asphalt. Mr. Swank, thank you for your history. Anybody have a quick question, I would remind you, he's not on trial here, so if you've got a question, we'll try to help you.
I don't have a question. I appreciate you coming. I'm glad that somebody finally came here and answered some questions that I've been, I knew somebody knew. So thank you for coming.
Prior to that, we had not done any development in Oakland. We were pretty much focused to the west. It wasn't until after the crash and the banks asked us to come in that we started gaining knowledge about these things. So I came in at the worst possible time,
I understand.
but have kept fairly good record. So if other things come up and other developments relative to that time period, there's a good chance that we have a lot of that data that may be helpful to the town.
Mr.
Thank you.
Sutton, you have a question?
I do, and he may not be able to answer it because he's not in the asphalt business. But I was just wondering on this sheet that Mr. King provided on the proposal for the 198, why the 1.5-inch surface asphalt costs $7 more a ton than the 2-inch base asphalt? Is there a different asphalt you put down?
It's a different mix.
Different mix, so it's more
The final
expensive.
mix is a different
The
mix.
top coat.
Actually,
Yes.
we have someone back here that probably answered a lot more intelligently than I can.
What is it, T.401E is
Yeah.
is the surface and I forgot what the.
411 and 307B.
Yeah, 411.
So that-
That's your surface, it has smaller rocks in it, it's got more emulsion to it and stuff. So it's a tighter mix, it goes down, where your base is a more porous, so.
The other question, I understand about, it used to be 1 inch required back then. So the town collected for 1 inch of top coat, and now we require 1.5 inches. So that's 33%. So if they were gonna use 360 for the top coat here, back when it was bid, it would've just been 240 tons, right? With 33%, 120 off.
Well, it's a 50% increase though.
Right.
It's
so
a third, it's
$20
50%.
So here's what you're looking at. You're looking at it's $20 more than what we figured on. We figured it on 117
Right.
dollars a ton, and at that time it wasn't but 80 to 85, but we still collected $117. So it's $20 different a ton on that now, and it's 33% more. Well, 50% more.
50%. If you go from 1 inch,
50% more,
yes,
but 33% deduction.
yes.
And so on those figures, you wouldn't think that it would be that much difference between what we collected if you were figuring that it would have been on 117, right? That's what we said we figured it on, 117 times 240. It's 28,080. And I think we collected 18 something. Is that not right with the CD?
There were two CDs.
No, there's-
One was 40, I think the other was
One
14,
was-
15.
One was 34,000, it's up to 36,000 now, and the other one was,
18.
it's 18,000. Right now, we have approximately $54,000. Which is why I've been so, on this, cause that means we gotta come out of pocket $150,000 when we got 200,000 we're trying to do another neighborhood on.
And I know the total cost because there was damage underneath, so I know that, but I was just,
I see what you're saying. You're saying the percent increase, it shouldn't be 54, you're saying this should cost somewhere around $85,000
yes.
instead of $198,000.
It's mind-boggling, and of course, I mean, this was
Well,
in 2011, wasn't it, when this was actually taken?
12.
Well, 12 is when it become mature.
well, also don't,
11 is when it was signed, right?
well, also think about, you're just talking about the cost of putting down those 2 layers. Now we have to have the expense of going and tearing all that up and taking it out and starting all over from scratch. So that is going to significantly add to the cost of this project.
You have to do the whole base.
Says here the date it was opened on the CD was May the 10th, 2011, and the date it matured was 5/10/2012.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting since this development agreement was executed in June of 12, so it makes you add.
There's a lot of questions.
That's
there.
a little
I'm just
weird.
telling you, it's a lot of questions, a lot of questions.
Let me ask one question. This is not for Mr. Swink. If we're not gonna spend this money and do this, project now, these 2 CDs will remain where they are?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Swank, thank you.
I got a question, I got a question.
Okay, Mr. Swank, you're getting, I'm sorry, I didn't mean for you to stand there this long. Mr. Gates?
What would you figure the difference of cost now to redo the whole base than what it was then?
I'm not sure I can answer that. I'll say, with my experience on Riverdale, watching what the bank did and the contractors that they brought in there, the reclamation was a lot less expensive than it would have been had you were constructing it from scratch. And the reason I say that is, I went out to see it because it was amazing. They brought this huge machine out with this grinder on the front with its teeth, and it just took all of that bad asphalt and even the good and bad subbase, and it just grinded it up, and they laid soil cement on top of that. So in essence, they took everything that was there, mixed it all up, added cement to it, and then all of that created a significantly stronger base for the asphalt that they came back and put in. But that was a lot less than what it would originally have cost to have gone in there and built it. To reclaim it was less than what it would have been to build it completely.
Okay,
Then to pull it all out and try to rebuild it the same way.
thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Swank, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
So just to reiterate, we're looking for no action on this tonight.
That's correct, sir.
okay. Moving down to D, consideration of resolution 2313, a resolution authorizing a professional service agreement with Renaissance Architects for schematic design of Fire Station 2. And this was continued from February 16th. Do I have a motion to hear?
Motion to hear.
Have a motion, Vice Mayor Wiggins. Mr. J.
As the mayor said, this is to authorize the schematic design only for proposed fire station number 2. The fee for the agreement shall not exceed $25,000, and that, if we proceed with the project, that $25,000 will come off the design fee.
Is there anyone from Renaissance here?
No, they could not be here tonight.
You
They were
remember
here.
They did a presentation at our workshop.
I remember. Someone approached me with a question that I thought was a ridiculous question, but they could answer it.
What was the question?
The question was that if most of their business is building firehouses, why do we have to spend $25,000 to design a firehouse? Why can't we find one that they've already designed and just say, we want that one? We'll give you $1,000 for it. I preface this by saying ridiculous question, did I not?
Well, not a bad idea if you come up with a plan you like.
Well, the plan you like is part of it, but also the schematic design will include how the building lays on the property.
Yes.
And
And
so,
where that unique property is located, and plus, if you pay for design and some failure comes up in the future, we can always go back and blame the designer, but if we just buy one.
for example, and I know you don't want to get into that level of detail, but in all probability, the front of the fire station will front Highway 64, but the apparatus bays will front the new street opposite Forest Edge Drive, and the trucks would not enter and exit directly on Highway 64, but at the intersection. So that's why the layout on the property becomes important to the process.
Is that because they could get in and out faster that way than they could on 64?
Yes,
Is
sir.
that a reason for that?
Yes, sir. And also, we're gonna have to get a TDOT permit to access 64 anyway with a street. To get a second access permit that close for a driveway could be an issue.
Plus, if we remember correctly, they will build this to look like it belongs in that environment, not
I knew
just.
That's what they said.
Now, it says in here we're authorizing up to $25,000. What's the chances that it comes back under $25,000?
I think there's a possibility to come back somewhat under that. I don't think it's gonna come back at half, no, sir, but.
You're an optimist, Mr. Johnson.
I don't want it to come back over 25 like we've had some before.
I will express that to the architect.
Have a motion,
So move.
have a motion, Vice Mayor Williams, have a second?
Second.
Have a second, Ms. Hummel, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, moving on. Resolution 2321, approving development agreement, subdivision contract amendments for Cross Creek PD Phase 3. Have a motion to consider.
Motion to consider.
Have a motion, Ms. Hummel. Mr. J.
Alderman Hummel requested this item be deferred from our last meeting.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. And I did, after the meeting, get a copy of the addendum that I tried to get, that couldn't seem to get, but finally got it. Thank you, Mr. Minor. And I'm reviewing it and looking at it, looking at the substitute paragraph that's going to go in, that's been rewritten, and hearing the explanation when they got up and talked about it. I'm pleased.
Do I have a motion, Ms. Hummel?
Yes, there you go.
Have a motion to pass Resolution 2321.
Wait a minute, to pass or to defer?
No, to pass.
Okay, I'm
We've
sorry.
already heard it.
Approve.
Have a
Approved.
motion to
Approved.
I'll second, Mayor.
Have a motion from Ms. Hummel, have a second from Vice Mayor Wiggins. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, moving on. We have no new business. Consideration of resolutions. You gotta have a public hearing. I'll declare a public hearing open on Resolution 2328, approving the issuance of bonds by the Health and Education Facilities Board of the City Directors of Dixon, Tennessee, for the benefit of BTT Development I-4 LP and Housing Associates LP for the acquisition and rehabilitation of 16-unit multiple family housing facility located at 55 Inzer Cove, Oakland, Tennessee. For those of you who don't know, that's the little farmers down by the post office. Is anybody here from the company wishing to do this? Okay, you come forward, state your name.
My name is Chris Tursky. I'm the owner of Volunteer Management and Development out of Jackson, Tennessee. We have partnered up with a developer out of Lawrenceburg, and we have package 13 rural development properties in western Middle Tennessee in an effort to secure tax-exempt bond financing to acquire and rehabilitate all of these complexes. The one here in Oakland is by far the smallest. It would have never even have been considered had it not been for the current owners are elderly and they're kind of like tired of doing it. And all of the other ones that are included in our package have owners that have passed away and their heirs now own it and they don't want to continue them. So the only way to keep them going, and rural development has encouraged us, is to go through this process and secure financing to do the rehab. Nothing will change. There'll still be a 16-unit elderly complex. The rents are subsidized by rural development, so the residents that are there will be entitled to stay and their rent won't change.
I have a couple questions. One, what will happen to the residents while you're renovating the house?
We've got a couple options that we offer. If they have family in town, we'll give them like a couple $100 a week to go stay with them. Worst case scenarios, we put them up in a hotel. We hate to do that, but because it's easier for them to stay with friends than it is get stuck in a hotel. We pay for everything, and if, any fees for utilities or anything that have to be changed, we absorb that. There's no expense to the residents that are there, and it's a way to get them rehabbed. They're 30 years old, and they definitely need it.
Do you do more than one at a time? You do 2 or 3 at a time, or just?
Yeah, I hate to say it, but we prefer that it be like half empty or something. We could go in and do the empty ones and then move them over, but when they're all occupied, we'll probably just do a couple, 2 or 3 at a time, so it'll drag out the process. But I mean, it's the only
The
way.
gentleman that spoke to the county, and Mr. Wiggins was he didn't say that. He said that they would use vacant ones to fill them and do them one at a time.
Well, there's no vacancies.
There's none in
I know right now, so if there's no vacancies, we can't do it.
Is that what you remember?
That's what he said, but that guy did not really strike me as being very knowledgeable and,
That was my son. So.
okay.
Throw him under the bus, but I mean,
You need to write more clearly on the Post-it notes from now on.
like I said, we prefer it to be half empty that we could do that and then move them over. But.
Well, what you have told me, and if there's any other questions, they will. My concern that night, and I was very adamant about it, was that I wanted to make sure that the residents of that apartment complex were gonna be taken care of. You've assured me that that's gonna be done, so that satisfies my
Has he
concern.
assured
Well,
you with
wait.
the contract in writing, or has
Yeah.
he just assured us by verbal?
Yeah.
Because if something happens to him,
Wait, can I just interject for a second? I have questions too, but technically, we're in a public hearing. This is the time for the audience to speak. When you close the public hearing, I have a couple of questions.
Okay, I appreciate that. Does anybody in the audience wish to speak? Hearing that, I will close the public hearing. I've already made my comments. Ms. Hummel, you
Yeah,
requested?
I do. Thank you. I'm concerned, as our mayor is, about the residents that are in there, that when I drive by there and all, it seems like a lot of them are elderly. So when you say, well, maybe they can go and live with a relative, a lot of these may not even have relatives. So they're kind of like at the mercy of who's going to help me go, because they got to box up their little memories or their linens and whatever their stuff they got and move it. So they might not even have anybody to help them move. So I'm worried about the expenses that's going to occur on them. And then when they go, who's going to have to move? And then they got to come back. And I don't see a lot of these people going to have relatives. You say, well, they can go stay with a friend or a relative. That's just not going to happen.
We include in our budget relocation, which we will hire a moving company, and then we also retain climate-controlled storage, and we'll put their furnishings in, and then when they move back, we move them back. Again, we pay for that. It's all budgeted, it's part of the process. it's unfortunate that they're all occupied, but I think if you talk to any of the residents there, and I don't know anybody there, I mean, this is, you know, this is something we're buying, but I'm sure they would all say, we desperately need to get them rehab. I mean,
Well, I agree with that also, to take care of these people that live there, but I just want to make certain that they don't incur a whole lot of expenses, because they're probably on fixed income and very limited income. And when you say put them up in a hotel, what hotel in Oakland? You know, then we're going to have to be moving them into Arlington, we're going to have to be moving them into Memphis, and that could be a long ways from the services that they need, and how are they going to get around? I'm just asking.
I mean, it's not gonna be an easy process. To be honest, you know, 16 units it wouldn't have been anything that we would have included if we hadn't done this big package, and we're encouraged to do it, so. But that's been our process. We always hire a moving company. We have climate control storage that we put the stuff in. We're getting to the point where we can do it a little quicker now, so a lot of times it's only like 2 weeks that the people will be out of their apartment. We can move them back in, but
Is there,
2 weeks.
I just got one more question. Is there any way we can see a copy of that agreement? You say you have something that's got the relocation package in it and putting them in there, and the contract with, is there any way we can see that? Because I really want to make certain these people are taken care of.
City administrator and let him look at it.
Because I know I haven't seen it.
Okay, would you be satisfied with Mr. Johnson looking at it, making sure it meets your needs?
Okay, yes, I would. Thank you.
All right,
I'd like to run it by a lawyer too.
yeah, I'm gonna get you.
Is it,
All right, Mr. Wiggins was next, and then Mr. Fisher.
is this something, I mean, I counted 14 developments. Is this something your company does throughout the state, throughout the country?
No, just Tennessee and West Kentucky is where we emphasize all of it.
And you've done this many times before. You have a process.
8-property portfolio in Kentucky. We did 10 properties in Tennessee right before that. The closest one is probably in Covington, 40-unit elderly, kind of the same situation. I mean, it's not glamorous by any means, but it's.
You provide a service, you get compensated for it, and the residents who were there remain there.
Exactly.
And you go through Dixon to get these bonds because they have some kind of unique mechanism for issuing bonds all throughout the state?
No, we went to Dixon. 2 of the properties are in Dixon, and the attorneys we're using have dealt with them previously in a housing complex. That their health ed board, health finance. They're an active board. We looked around the state. None of the other cities or counties had very active health ed boards that would have been able to do this across the state. So we went to them. I mean, they asked the same things. Why do we care about apartments in Oakland and in Somerville, and we've got some in Covington in this deal? So, we had to do the same thing with them, but, that's why we come to the local board, saying, city councils, to get your blessing that you agree that it's something that you, feel is needed.
Thank you for coming.
Mr. Fisher.
I'm just curious, why do you not have I guess a moving packet and all that other information you just passed on to Ms. Hummel into this packet right here? Because we wouldn't ask those questions if we had all that to say, hey, you guys are gonna pay for their moving expenses, their hotels and all that. That question wouldn't have been proposed but have you not run into this problem before?
Yeah, we got a standard form, which I've agreed to wire to the, city administrator. The chances of this staying in the portfolio, I give it about a 50-50 chance, because of its size. It'll be at least a year before we know whether we're gonna be able to do it or not. But, usually like 2 months before that, we start notifying all the residents, saying, here's what we're gonna do, here's your options. Can you find someone to stay with? You need special care. Sometimes we have to, we've got to go to the extent of having an ambulance move people because they were, disabled and couldn't get around. It's not something we like to do, but we do what we got to do to get the job done.
Okay. Mr. Johnson.
Sir, you touched on this, but I wanted to ask if you could elaborate. you're using the USDA Rural Development Loan. Is that,
We're assuming.
okay, you're applying. Is that limited to senior housing?
Their definition, or they being rural development of seniors, is that you have to be 62 years of age, disabled or handicapped. So you can be a 30-year-old handicapped person and still qualify.
The reason I ask, Oakland is a very dynamic market, and having apartments or whatever for lease would generate a lot of interest more broadly. But there is a defined residency requirement for these units.
And they'll be, we'll have to sign a land use restricted covenant with THDA and rural development, keeping them affordable for the next 30 years. I won't be there for all 30 of them.
Any other questions?
The question I had earlier, is that agreement in writing that those restrictions will be on there and transferred if sold? Because he said 50-50 chance it won't even remain in his portfolio. So will those restrictions in writing, they will be transferred as written? And my other question was based on his son's presentation at the county. He had said that y'all were gonna spend about $55,000 per unit.
It's actually gone up, it's a little over 60,000 a year.
And that 60,000, does that consist of construction cost only, or is that moving expenses and hotel rents and
Construction costs only.
construction cost only? Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. I
Okay.
think we're gonna benefit from this, guys. I really do. I think that the place is old. I mean, I think we're gonna benefit.
It's somebody coming in and spending $1.4 million in our community.
And that's right. And I mean, I don't see a bad deal if they'll keep the residents a place to live. I know it's gonna be inconvenient, like you said, but I mean, it's
Mayor?
Okay, one more thing, and then I'm gonna call for a vote. Yes, Mr. Johnson?
I know the answer is yes, but I have to ask. You will obtain all necessary building permits and comply with all codes?
Yes.
Okay. Have a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve based on the fact that our attorney reads the contract and understands that it would be kept and conveyed according to the way it currently is on restrictions for residents.
I second.
Have a motion for Mr. Sutton, have a second by Vice Mayor Williams. All in favor?
Aye.
Sir, thank you for doing that for us, and we will try to work with you, and we will harass the hell out of you.
Enjoy the drive.
Watch your language, Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
B.
And then B, Resolution 2329, authorizing agreement with Fayette County on fire EMS services. Motion to hear.
Here.
Have a motion, Mr. Fisher. Mr. Johnson.
This was discussed at your work session 10 days ago. I believe there's a copy of the correspondence with the county mayor regarding the questions you had at that meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve. I have a second.
I got a question.
Okay, Mr.
So
Fisher.
was the $5 gas surcharge and all that, was it applied, or?
The $5 was the calculation or close
Right.
to it that the chief used, so we're okay. And if,
Okay.
I
yeah,
thought it was 7.
7's what, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Wiggins, you got a question?
I just want to announce that this came before me on a different board in my role as a county commissioner. I have checked with the mayor and the town attorney. I am not conflicted in this. I checked with the county attorney and the county mayor. I am not conflicted in this, but I wanted to announce that before we vote. And at the county commission, I abstained from the vote.
Okay.
I'd like to ask for a roll call vote on this, if we get a second.
I seconded already.
All right, we have a motion for Mr. Sutton, have a second for Mr. Cage, have a request for roll call vote. Mr. Sutton, how do you vote?
Yay.
Mr. Cage?
Yay.
Ms. Hummer?
Yes.
Mr. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Wiggins?
Well, I'll abstain.
All right. Motion carries 4 with 1 abstention, Ms. Yvonne. All right, moving on. Resolution 2331, renaming Byers Road to Mebane Road, Farm Road, excuse me. Motion to hear.
Motion.
Have a motion from Mr. Case. Mr. J?
When the town purchased the property several years ago, one of the considerations discussed was the family was renaming the road, naming the park in terms of recognizing the family's history with that property. Our attorney has prepared Resolution 2331, which was in your packet. And, if I may, this is for what we would call Bowers Road north of 64. The Bowers Road that is on the south side of 64 would remain Bowers Road.
I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve Resolution 2331. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Mr. Case.
I have
I
questions.
have a question from Mr. Hummel.
Actually, I have several questions. All right, I've reviewed this, and I've done some, of course, obviously, I do a lot of research. And I'm concerned with paragraph 2 of the resolution that we have in there, just directing the town administration to take all appropriate and necessary steps as needed to inform those outside entities, such as the Fayette County 911 office and the post office of the renaming. Now, I believe I see in the audience Ms. Carol Ann Mason that's here, that is the director of County 911. And with the permission of the board, I would like to ask her a question. May I have that permission?
You have so. Come
Ms.
forward,
Carolyn
please,
Mason.
ma'am. State your name and your address, please, for the board.
Carolyn Mason, and then I'm one director for Fayette County.
All right, well, thank you for coming here, and I hope I asked my questions clearly. If not, excuse my ignorance on how to operate it. But I was concerned, I'm always interested in crossing the T's and dotting the I's. And what I was interested in was Fayette County 911 contacted then is when this real estate transaction occurred to get their input prior to this, such as was there, asking you, was there a safety issue naming this street, this name, since Oakland has a Meeborn Street around the corner from us, and Rossville has a Meeborn Drive. Could there be a safety issue if someone is using a cell phone, say, that would not transmit the caller's location, and the caller is shouting, Meeborn, Meeborn, Meeborn? Are we going to decide, well, which 3 locations are we sending the medical people to? My main question again is, did anybody come to you at all versus the planning board or anyone from town's administration and research this with you before they went ahead and did this?
No, the first time I heard about it was from Debbie Crawford, which is the owner of the land. She was a neighbor. And she called and talked to me about it and asked, and I referred her back to the town because it is a town decision. I think the big issue is this was originally done in 21, and now we're at 23. And I have 2 subdivisions that have been addressed with Bowers Road addresses. Even addressed the entrance to the park and recreation, it has a Bowers.
I'm sorry to interrupt. What 2 subdivisions?
Twin Oaks and Riverwood.
No, Twin Oaks final plat has not been approved by the planning commission.
Okay. They have submitted a plat to me, and it has been addressed. But that,
Mr. Corton, I'm sorry, Mayor, I'll wait.
And I'm not through either, so thank you. But anyway, and I understand that the Postal Service has been notified of these 2 subdivisions that have these addresses, and that they've actually accepted these addresses, correct?
yes, I do submit it. I submit when I address. I did submit it to the developer, Chickasaw, election office, tax office, planning, the city post office, whichever town or city, and to y'all's development.
And again, my main concern is the safety issue of these locations, because I know there's several streets in Oakland that's got a conflict with their streets. One is spelled with a P and one is spelled with an F or something like that, and it's a conflict and puts citizens in danger. And again, I'm concerned that I understand that Oakland has the authority to tell 911 that this is what we're going to do and what we have, and you can't stop it. But I think since it's a safety issue that needs to be addressed, particularly if someone's on a cell phone saying, Meeborn, 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 they're in a agitated state, an excitable state, and may not remember its farms, whatever, and that delays the time of getting everybody out. Now, I'm also looking at page 9 of the purchase and sale agreement gentlemen, that contains a special stipulation regarding the naming rights for the future overall park site. And I refer to item 2 that states, buyer, being Oakland, agrees to allow Joy, I hope I'm not mispronouncing this, Smoot, is that correct? Thank you. Naming rights in honor of her family for the future overall park site. Well, a transfer of land, gift, or sale is controlled by the statute of frauds. And this comes from the Tennessee Code Annotated, TCA 29-2-101, parentheses A, that no action shall be brought in subsection 4 upon any contract for the sale of lands unless the promise or the agreement upon which such action shall be brought shall be in writing. Now, gifts are treated the same as sales, and any modification to that agreement must be in writing as well. So the statement saying overall park site, it does not state park site and road. I've heard an unsubstantiated comment that to include the road did occur after the fact. It was not part of the signed document and was done on a handshake informally. I firmly believe that any handshake deal should have been confirmed and voted on in a public meeting. I don't know if this happened. I've heard a rumor that there was a resolution that was made, but it needed to be made public. And if not, and there are no minutes to confirm this, then I question the legality of this commitment, since the above quoted statute mandates any changes must be in writing. The contract transferring the park specifies that the site is to be named Meeborn, but not the road beside the site. My other question is whether Oakland has a legal authority to compel Fayette County 911 to change the name regardless if there's a safety issue involved. Now, what I want to know also, did the town obtain a written consent from Mr. Tim Corradini, who's lived in his residence since 1998, that he agrees to the name change? Mr. Corradini would have had to change all his legal documents to the new address, and just because someone said he agreed verbally, in my legal mindset, this does not support that claim. Does the town have a written agreement from him that he's happy with this? Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Mason.
You want to answer these questions, and then we'll probably have some more. Do you have any comments on this?
The only comment I can make is that Ms. Hummel is correct. That is the language that appeared in the purchase and sale agreement between the Smoot Newbern family and the town. The language that was used was that the renaming rights would remain with Ms. Smoot in her family's honor for future overall park site. And that was not that was a contract prepared by a real estate agent, not by an attorney, but nevertheless, there was a resolution that was passed on the 19th of December of 2019 that has a caption that it is a renaming of the Joy Smoot naming rights of property located at Highway 64 and Bowers Road. It references the fact that there was a subsequent contract that was executed. I do not recall what the details were that required that there be a subsequent contract, but the naming rights were inadvertently omitted from that contract, and that resolution, and the town has it on file, I got a signed copy here, reconcile that to show that there was to be naming rights under the revised contract consistent with the language from the original contract. It's shown as Resolution 19-61. Ms. Hummel is correct. The language in there is not as crystal clear as it, in hindsight, if a lawyer had gotten in there and done it, would have been done, probably worded differently. It's used the word overall park site.
And I would argue, what does that mean, site, if I was an attorney? But I'm not. But I did stay at a Holiday Inn Select one time.
Overall is an operative word as well, so.
All right.
Okay, Mr. Williams.
Irregardless of what was or was not in the contract, aren't we making it legal by passing this resolution?
To rename it?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm kind of ambivalent on this issue. This came up before I was on the board. I will speak, and I'm glad she said something, because while you're here, I called you about a year and a half ago or so, give or take some time. My street that I live on, if you go to the stop sign and you continue straight, that is a different street by one word, the difference between road and drive. 3 times, ambulance, fire, police came to my neighbor's house, unloaded all their equipment, rushed up to the door for the homeowner to say, no one called you. They had to repack everything and go a block down the street to a different location. Maybe it was something minor, but if you're having a heart attack, that could be the difference between life and death. I called you, and at the time, you said, I'm going to put a flag on here that every time services come out to your neighborhood, they are going to be told, go to the Cove side or the Drive side. And just last week, Oakland police came, knocked on my door, and told me my alarm was going off. And they had to go down the street.
And this kind of gets off subject, but not. This is why, one, I like being here talking to y'all, because we do want to work together for the best public safety for our citizens. Since we are central dispatch, this is why I need to see the plats before they're finalized. To keep us from having double names, to keep from having Hidden Springs Cove and Hidden Springs Drive.
Yes.
That's hard, because most people in the postal service will tell you the same thing. They drop that suffix, you know, and it says.
I know my neighbor very well. We trade mail and packages on a weekly basis.
It happens regularly in Oakland. And
It infuriates Amazon.
yeah, well.
I almost got a free fence from Lowe's.
Most people will drop that. But
I do have one
that's
serious,
the problem at hand.
yes.
Because we can deal with that.
One more question, Mr. Wiggins.
Well, no, you finish first.
I don't have the authority to tell you you can or you can't. Okay? There's nothing in the law. This is 911 does your addressing. I just think, and this goes back to prior regime, because it started in 21 or before that. But the Cordini is a concern to me. If he does or doesn't, I've been told he's okay with it. He has not told me that. But just let's do what we think is best for our citizens' public safety. And, you know, it concerns me that they were promised in a sale that the name could be changed. And,
Well, it was after the fact.
okay. And that, you set a precedence by doing that. For the
Yes.
next person selling land to the city.
My last question is what you just touched on, and that's the biggest part to me, is the Cordinis. It's not just, oh, we have a new address. They have to,
He has to change.
they have to get a new title for their house. Because when I asked about this, can't we just change the house numbers down the block? No, everyone will have to go and refinance their house, and that is going to be a significant, because you don't live at 55 Cypress Point Road anymore. Now you live at 53 Cypress Point Road, and you have to go, and if this one house is down there, they could go through a considerable expense on getting all the legal paperwork updated to the correct address.
Proving that they didn't move.
That's right.
It's a new address for that property.
That's right.
Because you see, map and parcels solved everything, but now insurance companies, after 9/11, street address.
Okay. Duly noted, Mr. Johnson.
If I may make 3 points, please. One is, I've had a number of conversations with the family over the last 2+ years. I can tell you without hesitation, there is an expectation by the family that the street name will be changed. Second, I talked to Mr. Cordini this afternoon to invite him to this meeting. He could not come, and I agree with Ms. Mason. He didn't say he approved, but he said he was aware of the name change and that it was going to be happening. The third point I would make, and I'm not sure where things have maybe gone astray there. Twin Oaks has submitted the final plat for Phase 1. It is on the April 4th agenda of the Planning Commission. And on that plat, it says Mewburn Farms Road. We have it. Mr. Wallace? I mean, I don't know where the disconnect there is, but that is the official record that's been submitted to the city.
May I make a comment?
Yes, sir.
I said something to Mr. Sutton, I don't know, a few months ago, when we were talking about putting commercial lots down there, and I said, I don't want to change the agreement after we've already done it. And if we've already agreed to this family, it comes back to honoring your word. They gave us a very good price for this land with some expectations. My only concern is to make sure the Cordini family realizes the expense that's involved before we do this. I'll do whatever the board wants. I know there's a motion on the table. If that motion was retracted and we could put this off a month to do a little bit more research, I don't think it would have a problem passing as long as we know everyone's comfortable with it, but that's
I'll
just,
withdraw my motion.
that's just a suggestion.
Okay, you can, Mr. Sutton has chosen to withdraw his motion. Mr. Cates, you want to withdraw a
I'll
second?
withdraw my second.
Now, here's my question, Mr. Johnson. Planning Commission approves this plot with his name on it. And that's it, correct?
In that, in phase one, if phase one has not changed from what I received from the developer, does have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lots that would have Bowers Road, Newbern Farms address.
You're talking about I call it the eyelid, the curve, the half moon. I don't believe there's,
No, those will be Oakland Haven Circle if that hasn't changed.
I don't believe there's any homes fronting whatever name we want to use for this road.
The plat did have, I remember there were some little special houses and when they
Yes.
presented it, it had front porches where they could they look over in the park. I
That's
remember
right.
some-
But
It
there,
was,
okay, I'm sorry, yes, you're correct, they're backloaded. Oh, they're backloaded. Okay.
Can the planning commission not defer until May? I
That-
mean, that's
that-
not our call.
It's gonna be problematic to defer the, acceptance of the final plat at the April, is it 4, I think, meeting. Maybe it could be done, but, I mean, I would need Mr. Corton to, weigh in on that. Let me just make one comment about, just because of my years of, experience with real estate matters. If Mr. Cordini has got a mortgage on his property, his mortgage, is a lien on the legal description of his property, not the address of his property. There will be some inconvenience to him having to go to his mortgage company and make an address change request, but his mortgage will not have to be changed because the mortgage is described by a meets and bounds description of his property.
I understand that, but what if he doesn't have a mortgage? He still has to go down to the he still has a lot of paperwork to do at his expense.
Right.
He would have to retitle his house.
You had mentioned about a refinance.
Well, either way, it doesn't matter. He has inconvenience and expense. I don't know, but if the planning board's gonna do it, maybe we need to,
I'm gonna get you, Mr. Bishop. Wait, see, Mr. Wiggins gets through talking.
I'm done for a while.
Mr. Fisher.
I always say if it's not in the four corners of a contract, it doesn't exist. And some of these people on this board have used that as well. Well, it's not in the contract, we can't do it. Well, guess what? It's not in the contract. We've looked at it, it's not there. But not only, he's gotta go with this, I mean, anybody, gotta go change their credit cards, their driver's license, their tags. I mean, it goes with everything that, I mean, you live by, your telephones, I mean,
Driver's license.
but if, please, hear me out. But I wanna know who went and told the planning board that this is gonna happen without the board voting on it. I've had people ask me, how come this board hasn't voted on something and we got this done? Well, now the question is, who went to the planning board, to the lawyer and said, this is gonna happen? It hasn't happened. We haven't voted on it. But apparently now we have.
Neither is the planning board.
Well, it's already on the plats.
Well, that's.
So
but the
am I
planning board is
stupid?
not-
No.
Yes, I am,
No,
but
you're not. No,
I'm
you're
telling
not.
you, she
Sometimes I
says it's
question
one
you,
thing
but
and
not
he's
now.
saying something else.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr.
please, I said the final plat had been submitted to the planning commission for their April 4th meeting. Admittedly, it has not been approved, but I'm going to, this is conjecture on my part. I would not be surprised if the family didn't have the same agreement or the same discussion with Grant Homes as developer of Twin Oaks subdivision. I don't know where Grant Homes developing Twin Oaks subdivision got the idea to put that name on the plat, other than I can tell you, it did not come from my office. Now, whether, you know, I'm not sure where it came from, but, you know, I guess I'm regretting that it's come to this point, because it has been, I thought, common knowledge or understood that as part of that project, the street was going to be renamed.
Well, didn't you just say we passed a resolution to do that back in
Yes.
20? Okay. Mayor, the code enforcement would like to make a comment.
I talked to Mr. Ed at my home. The plans have not been, signed or sent to the planning commission for final process. It has not been brought to this board. Also, the construction plans that was dated, and I have here, that it says Bowers Road, even though the construction plan. So nothing has been brought into the office for Ed to put on, for the planning commission to look at whether the name has changed or not. Construction plans still say Bowers Road and sign.
I'm sorry, one point of clarification. This board would not see the final plat. That is strictly,
Planning.
planning commission.
I got a question when they get through.
All right, Mr. Case,
Could I ask Mr. Pinckney a question?
you can ask anybody you want to question, Mr. Case.
Are you familiar with this along with us?
Well, I'm glad you asked, because that's what I noticed, is we had a Bowers Road extension at the planning meeting last month that was approved, that I read, and I was wondering how you had a Bowers Road extension when you wasn't gonna have a Bowers Road. So I know
Right.
it's a problem.
Right.
I'm glad you asked.
I asked him
All
a
right,
question.
Mr. Pinckney, go ahead.
Thank you, Dave. 315 Terry. I'm involved with Riverwood Gardens Development. Over the years, we have had many discussions with the Planning Commission. And as Mr. Cates, Alderman Cates can testify, he was on the Planning Commission. That has been a question of Bowers Road, whether it was a road or a county road, or even was a public road or not. It's always been Bowers Road. I've never heard in the last 2 years, and I've been before the Planning Commission on Riverwood since that, and just as of last month, getting the North preliminary overall plan reapproved, nobody has told me that the name was gonna be changed. Not in any of this discussion, up until 3 weeks ago, when I got an email.
Well, is there a way that we could have Bowers Road to the south, Mewburn Farms Road to the north, and at the end of however many yards that is, that's Bowers Road extended, and that way we could still change the thing and only have one?
That would be.
Oh, that'd be fun. Come on. Fire department could do circles.
All right, okay.
I got,
have to turn in every plat and road name to 911.
Yes.
Ms. Mason, Ms. Downing up in, well, she's retired, I can't think of the new one up in Tipton County. I gotta do it in DeSoto County. Shelby County, MLG and W controls 911. In Shelby County, if the road makes a 90-degree turn, you change the name or add it, Bartlett Oaks Circle West, or East, or North. It changes at 90-degree turns with them. Thankfully, she doesn't do that, because it makes it a little bit confusing and you have to buy a bunch of new street signs. But before I turn a plat in, I've submitted it to 911 in any district or municipality that I am to get a street name confirmed.
Thank you, sir.
thank you, Pinckney.
Now, let me see if I can put some closure to this.
I got one comment before you do that.
Mr. Case,
I guess we all aware that she did donate 30 acres to us of that park. I think it's 40.
40 acres.
She donated 40 acres that we didn't have to buy to name that park after that.
Well, that was for the park.
That's the park.
Can I ask one question on that while we're talking about it? I've never seen a layout of the park, and I know
Yes.
that doesn't mess with Bowers, that could be named Mewburn Farms?
We have two entrances off of this road into our park.
Could we name the entrances and those pretty blue signs and make the entrances?
Well, we're gonna name the park.
Well, yeah, but I mean, the street
Yes,
per se in the park.
yes.
We could have Mewburn Farms
Have
Drive.
Mewburn's Farms.
If I may follow that, the road that eventually will run from Highway 64 back over to Bowers Road, the curved road that goes to, it doesn't have a name yet. It does not.
I like that idea.
Maybe that would solve all problems and make everybody happy.
Mayor,
A thought.
okay, I want everybody to stop talking. I want everybody to quit wanting to ask more questions. I'm gonna let Mr. Minor talk, and I'm gonna bring closure to this.
Well, I
Mr.
only
Knight.
have a question, and I understand Mr. Corton is gone, I understand that he's, nursing an injury. But did I understand him to say that this will not come before the planning commission for final plat approval on the 4th of April? Did I hear
He
this?
has not received anything to make it.
But there are notice requirements that have to be met by the developer in order to get before the planning commission. Has he met those deadlines?
No.
So it will not come up on.
It's gonna take a little time.
I don't mean to be argumentative, but what did we look at Wednesday morning? We looked at the final plat.
Remember the extra that they was adding for, the changes on some areas? Remember what we looked at?
But it said final plat.
Has to be submitted 30 days.
Okay.
So if that's the case, Mayor, we do have time to discuss.
Yes, we do. Now, let me get this in a situation where we all understand it and we're happy. No, we're not gonna be happy.
Can I just make a motion to defer?
No.
Okay.
Basically, we're to a point where this has not been to the planning commission yet. But once it gets through with the planning commission, it has to come to this board.
On the street now.
On the street now. So neither one of those things have been done yet. My suggestion is, we get Mr. Johnson, get with Mr. Croton, tell him about the discussion tonight, make sure we've got all our T's crossed and our I's dotted before it comes to the planning commission. Ms. Hummel and I serve on the planning commission. We will make sure the planning commission knows the discussion tonight, and Mr. Croton will have some further stuff to add to the planning commission. Then it will come in here.
And then, in all likelihood, I don't know this for sure, at our board's meeting on the 20th, we may be considering a request to accept.
Okay, can I ask Mr. Sutton a question? Would the family be fine with the alternate road that Ms. Mason just pointed out, with that being named
I don't have a
Mason
clue.
Farms
I
Drive
have
or
not been
Road?
involved in any form or fashion in the name of that road. It was only took to the planning commission, and this is the first time it's been brought to the board, so I don't have a clue.
It just seems like a lot of confusion. We could just drop this whole thing right now, keep it Bowers Road, and then name the new road going into the park at whatever point that comes to fruition. We could name it that, and that way the name of that road would go into the name of that park.
We're back to my statement. It will come before the planning commission for their decision. Mr. Johnson, would you make Mr. Croton aware of all this? Mr. Wiggins, why don't you get with Mr. Johnson, and maybe Mr. Johnson can contact the family with your suggestion,
Sure.
and then we can do it.
So can we,
There's nothing on this now. It's been withdrawn. The motion has been withdrawn. So we have no action to take on this.
but this will die if we don't defer it.
His motion's been withdrawn. Somebody else can make a motion
Yes,
to.
that is correct.
Okay.
Do we just
I'm
let
not-
it die,
I'm
or
not
would you rather
there.
defer it?
Okay.
I'm not
Sorry.
there yet. Y'all get ahead of me.
Well, I'm ready to move on.
You can make a motion, somebody can make a motion to table it.
Or
Would
we
you
could,
like to make a motion to table it, Mr. Wiggins? So
No.
we can move on?
no, I would just,
Mr.
no.
Sutton, you wanna make a motion to table?
I don't, because I withdrew my motion.
Okay, Mr. Johnson?
It fails.
I'm gonna ask that this be withdrawn tonight, and we look at it again after, for the things that I've just already
Well,
went through 5 times.
Technically, the resolution dies for lack of a motion.
That's correct. It can be withdrawn though by Mr. Johnson, which we're gonna do.
Okay.
All right. Do with that. Moving on, resolution 2332, authorizing rental policy and fees, Oakland Activity Center. Do I have a motion to hear?
I make a motion.
Motion by Ms. Hummel, Mr. Johnson.
After your work session 2 weeks ago, Yvonne and I, took the information that Ms. Hummel provided, some information that Yvonne had prepared previously, and did a merging of the documents, and that's what's in your packet tonight. This resolution will establish a rental policy, it will also establish fees, for that rental. It also provides for some, I'll make it simple, do's and don'ts.
I have a question, if we're up for question time.
Okay.
Okay. The only thing I see in here, someone's pointed out to me, is that it talks about under areas of use, it talks about the use of serving platters, serving bowls, punch bowls, town-owned glasses. Right now, I don't think we have any of that stuff in there, do we? Are we just putting it in there just in case we get some?
Yes.
Which I can see us getting some. Yes. So it's all right to leave it, we don't need to modify that statement by saying we don't have any right now, but.
We have a couple of things right now, but, as time goes on, we will probably have at least some. We're not going to have, as you all know, a full kitchen, full servings, but we might have something.
Now, when we call that area the kitchen, because it's really not a full kitchen because we don't have a stove and that stuff, but we do have a sink in there and it looks like it's a prep area. Should we change that to say prep area, or should we just say still keep it at kitchen? Serving area maybe? Or what do you think?
I didn't want to use the term bar, so I won't.
No, I wouldn't like that either, so.
We could use it serving.
Serving area would be okay to
Well,
change it
in
to?
the future, we might get a hot plate or something plugged
You
in.
never
Just
know.
keep it kitchen.
Exactly,
It covers
it's
everything.
a kitchen.
There was at one point a microwave there. Does it still
Yes, it
work?
was. Yeah.
Does it still work?
No, but neither does the ice machine.
Can I ask a question?
But can
Yes, hold it just a second.
My,
Ms. Fisher, we'll let you finish, and then we'll go to Mr. Williams.
But all these items in here, so if somebody in next week wants to borrow this and they want to sign up and they sign this contract and they say, where are our glasses? Where are our forks, spoons, and knives? And you say, well, we don't have them. Well, we're saying we supply them.
I am fine if you want to take that language out. There's no private ownership.
I mean, this mocks Nick's, but,
it doesn't say that we'll provide it. It says that if you.
use it.
There.
No, it doesn't.
Yes,
It
it
says
use
the-
of
Right.
serving platters. Where do you think they're gonna get the serving platters? Their own? They don't care what they do with their own.
It's not the point. It doesn't say that we will provide these things. It says if they are there and you use them, you have to clean them.
Is that what that says? If they're
Yes,
there?
that's what use means. Not,
Use of
not,
serving
not
platters,
provide.
serving bowls, punch bowls, and pitchers is permitted.
I agree with that. If we say if available,
That's
Yes.
that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
if available.
That's implied. My
Yes.
question was under additional.
Trust me, a contract's never implied.
Additional, well, that is.
Okay.
Additional requirements, letter G, it says groups are required to file an insurance certificate of liability. Is that a common practice? That seems like somebody has to call their insurance company, have something mailed to them saying, yeah, well, for $26, we'll insure you for the 3 hours you're doing that. I've never seen that. I've rented places before. I've never had to provide a certificate of liability insurance.
I think that's a good point, because if my Girl Scout troop wanted to use it for something, we don't have a certificate of liability. We just say, can we rent it? Can we use it? We agree to the terms. Our scout leader will sign it. I don't have a certificate of liability. So what does that mean?
Well, if somebody gets hurt, who's liable then?
Well, my Girl Scouts have insurance. They do have insurance that covers them every event. Yeah, so they're covered if they injure themselves there. Girl Scouts of
even if-
America pays
Not
for it.
responsible for accidents.
Even if something gets broken or someone gets hurt, if you'll read the whole agreement at the beginning, it says the town of Oakland is not responsible, is not liable if you get hurt or something gets broken.
Mr. Minor, is that good enough?
Yes.
All right.
I'm sorry,
That's
Mr.
out
Minor.
too.
I'm not a certified attorney.
No, you're not.
Okay. All right. Where are we at, Mr. Johnson? You've heard all this mess. I'm confused.
I will add, if available, under serving platters, town-owned glasses. Is there any place else they?
Well, what about the certificate of liability insurance? Is that gonna be a requirement? I mean, that's something,
I have to tell you, that is fairly standard language that we use on a lot of things.
Yeah, and that basically came off of the lease agreement that the town has with the school board, with Oakland Elementary and all of the ball fields and.
Anytime anybody uses a school facility, you're required to have that insurance.
Do you want the word kitchen changed to serving area?
Yes.
how do people get that if they don't own a house?
Good suggestion.
Your insurance agent will issue a 1 day or 24-hour.
Okay.
Yeah, you can get,
You can get that, cause
yeah,
I
it's
never,
called
we
a
never
venue,
rented a
it's
thing
called,
when I was in school.
it's called a venue, insurance contract.
And I have to get one of those for Boy Scout camp
Yes,
every year
you
for
know,
20
Boy
years.
Scouts, for festivals.
I would like to make a motion then, if we're at that point, that we approve Resolution 23-32 with the amendment to change kitchen to service area, and also for the area about the kitchen utensils, that we make it, if available,
I think you should keep it kitchen.
because it could become a kitchen.
Yes.
All right, let me change my motion then. Let me withdraw it and give it again.
Hold up just a second. Are the fees disclosed in here?
Yes, sir. Well, back, I believe in the back page, right? Did you
I didn't see it.
That's my only question.
If
I
they're
didn't
not,
see it
then
either.
I apologize, because the fees were prepared.
I see attorney's fees.
I will bring those back. I'm sorry, they were prepared as part of the resolution.
So-
Do you know what they are?
Yes, it's $50 if they don't use the serving area, $100 if they do.
I thought we talked about $35.
The model I was given said 50.
I think a deposit has to be put on there, because if we don't,
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
you're correct. There was a $50 deposit, and then if they use the kitchen area, an additional fee. I will provide that for your next meeting. I'm sorry,
Okay.
I did not realize that wasn't here.
okay.
Can we defer, can we,
Can we table this?
Sure.
All right, I make a motion to table this until we get the fee structure worked out, and we'll readdress it at the next meeting.
Anything, let me clarify, anything that involves a fee has to be done by resolution or ordinance? Resolution, okay. good.
Okay?
and the thing we have last time said $35. It did not say 50 or 100.
I think a $50 deposit is good, because you make it $50, they're gonna
Okay,
take
we're talking
care of it,
about
come
a
back and get their
deposit or a
$50.
fee. So you're talking about a deposit.
A deposit,
But the
and
fee
you don't
would
have
only
to
be
cash the
$35.
check. You can just hold the check when they come back and give it to them.
Okay,
Who made the motion?
I did.
I'll second.
have a motion to withdraw this and defer it to next meeting. Have a second, have a motion from Ms. Hummel, have a second from Mr. Wiggins. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Johnson, good luck with that.
Can I say one thing about the check?
Yes, ma'am, you might as well.
Ms. Hummel, we cannot hold checks for more than 3 days,
Okay, so we'd have to deposit it, and then we'd write them a check back.
unfortunately.
Unfortunately, yeah. We gotta make certain their check clears.
We vote on that.
We did.
We did,
Did we vote? We had a second. Did we vote?
yes.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, other business items. Report on Byers Road North improvements and acceptance as a public street. Mr. Johnson.
I think this is probably gonna be Mr. Minor as well. As the board is aware, the asphalt, concrete of asphalt has been laid, the road has been striped. But as of Tuesday afternoon, Mr. King did not have all the required certifications, geotechnical, reports, and so that's why there's no action being requested this board tonight. Plus, the final plat, which included the dedication of the right-of-way, has not been approved by the planning commission. But there's a lot more involved, and I would defer to Mr. Minor.
Right, well, and the other significant issue is, and this goes back to our special meeting the other night, that Browning Contractors has agreed to assign over, or I should say that Grant Homes has agreed to assign over its warranty from Browning Contractors to the town. That warranty has been now submitted to Browning. Jeff Browning is the point of contact on that, and he informed me last week that he was out all of this week
that be necessary?
Well, this is such a unique situation. I wanna make sure that Browning signs an assignment agreement with Grant and
Okay.
Oakland to make sure that all parties understand that it is Browning's warranty that Oakland is looking to, and not a one-year warranty that's going to be given by Grant. You know, possibly Grant could just assign it over to the town, but I don't want a situation to develop, since this has been so unique, where Browning comes back and says, we didn't agree to the assignment, or that was not an assignable warranty, or something along those lines. I just think to cross Ts and dot Is, it needs to be a three-party assignment agreement.
Well, and I mean, I'm just thinking as a business guy.
Right.
What does Browning have in this town as collateral? Nothing,
No.
nothing. They don't own nothing. What does Grant Homes have as collateral?
Well, they've got.
So who do I want guaranteeing my loan here? Somebody has something,
Under a
right?
perfect situation, we would want.
That's why I asked that question.
But due to all of the circumstances involved in this, this is the arrangement that is gonna be presented to the board.
Could we request a bond?
Well, I just don't know what agreement we've ever had with Browning Construction, and now we're entering into an agreement with somebody we never had an agreement with.
Well, it's not, you know,
Could we request a bond?
Browning is not going to provide a bond in all likelihood.
Well, but what's the language of the warranty being presented to us? That they will make any necessary repairs to the roadway?
It's
Wait.
a one-year warranty to Grant to repair the roadway.
You know, we got a warranty on this Nolan machine back here. Look how well that worked out. Because they have no assets in town. I would also like to point out that this says report on Bowers Road North.
What?
It doesn't say Mewburn Farms.
Because when I prepared the agenda, there had not been a name change.
I'm just stating the obvious, Mr. Johnson.
Okay, all right, let's get back to the subject, please. So, Mr. Sutton, is your concern that we have no way of making Mr. Browning honor this contract?
I say he has no collateral. If who's holding that bond? I understand the warranty can be transferred, but Grant Homes is holding his bond. We're not holding his bond. And if we're not gonna have a bond to hold, then where are we gonna get it from him?
If there is a bond that has been provided by Browning to Grant, that bond would have to transfer with the warranty.
Okay, I'm good with that.
But I don't know, at this point, we do not have a copy of the contract between Browning and Grant. We only have a copy of the warranty from Browning and Grant.
I just want some collateral that it can be fixed if something's messed up on it. That's all I want. And I know he don't have anything where Grant Homes does. He's got all those lots and he's got a vested in it. He spent a lot of money.
Okay, Mr. Minor, you want to explore our concerns and see if you can address them and get back with us?
I don't want to rehash all of the information I went over last time, but Grant is not going to agree to a warranty. This is going to have to be a workout.
Okay, well, get what you get and come back to us. All right. If there are no other questions or concerns, I'll move on. Request for charitable donation of car parking center. Mr. Johnson.
You have a copy of a letter to the town from Pam Nash, the president and CEO of Carl Perkins, asking that money be appropriated in the FY '24 budget for that organization.
How much?
$2,500.
Didn't we just bring up charitable donations last month?
Yes, sir.
Was there any resolution to those discussions?
Well, but they have to follow state law.
654-111, is that I'm just off the top of my head.
I think it has 11 in it.
But it's a two-part question, if I may. Mr. Sutton's correct, they've got to follow the state law. But the second part of that question is the board prepared to allocate money out of our budget, and we'll discuss that during the budget.
They definitely provide a service to our citizens, I'm not doubt, but there is more stuff that they have to provide before we can give them
In a
money.
letter.
You know,
Okay?
can I say something?
Yes, sir.
You know this isn't good, this is the first of many to come to us.
Well, we've
And-
already had others. We've had
And
we've
that's
had
my
a
point.
request from the cemetery already.
Right?
We're gonna get a lot of requests.
And the question being, if we give to one, are we gonna give to all? Or can we choose and pick who we would like in the horse race and forget everybody else?
Well, in the other cities I've been in, the Board of Aldermen did pick and choose, but there was a rational basis for that. It was the amount of money that they were requesting versus the amount of money available in our budget. But in particular, it was the services provided to the citizens of that community. For example, this letter from Fayette Cares said they provided service to 178 individuals in Fayette County. That's nice, but I want to know how many citizens they served in Oakland, and are they making this same request to the other municipalities in Fayette County?
Well, also where they spend the most money. I mean, I know there are organizations that Mr. Sutton brought up that when we give them money, they rake in some bank here and most of it goes to their salaries.
May I make a comment?
You may. Thank you.
I personally support a lot of these local charities. I think they do very good work. But seeing Mr. Hal Rounds in the audience, I'm reminded of one simple question. Is it our job to take taxpayer money away from the people who earn it and give it to someone else?
Absolutely
That's the
not.
question we need to start asking before we get a dozen charitable requests that
I've
wind up
seen-
costing us
I've seen
$20,000.
Every one of y'all at charitable events throwing your own money in the charities, every one of y'all. And I
Everyone.
do too, but it is not my place to give other people's money away. And that's the way I feel, that everybody has that right to give to that charity that lives in town of Oakland. They either decide to or not to. And for me to decide where to give their money to, I cannot personally do that, period.
Okay? Mr. Johnson, would you please prepare a resolution stating that this board will make donations judged on each individual case, and another resolution that says we will make none at all, and let's let the board vote on it. Is that agreeable?
Yes.
Okay, you'll do that for me, sir? Moving on. Discussion of UGB map amendments.
Could have sworn we just had that.
Mr. Johnson?
In your packet, you have a memo that I provided to the board. Last week, Vice Mayor Wiggins and I went to the first Fayette County Urban Growth Boundary Coordinating Committee for the current process. During that, it was very interesting. There were, I think, 5 cities that didn't even come to the meeting. One city said they hadn't started their process yet. 2 cities presented maps that included a very large area, and then we talked about ours. What I've done with this memo, and these are discussion points, and Mr. Allen's comments earlier, I totally understand and respect, and I'm not debating that. But there are a couple of areas where I think we might want to look further. Specifically on Highway 64 West at the Shelby County line. If you look at the yellow area, it's the property on the south side of 64. I would suggest we ought to look at the property on the north side as well. I realize the majority of that's in the floodway or the floodplain, but nonetheless, I would say that it's probably in the city's long-term interest that we have interest in the UGB on both sides, because I can tell you right now, when the water line, if a water line is extended, it will be on the north side of the highway.
Well, we already have that on the north side.
No, we're on the south side on 64,
Where the yellow is.
where the yellow is.
Along the line,
So what do you want to extend the yellow further south?
No, further north.
right here.
yes,
Go to the other side of the road.
just where Mr. Sutton is pointing, just that
I
small
see
area.
that, but that box right there with that outline is our current map. We're adding the yellow to what already exists, and that line goes north.
No. Yeah,
We're adding the yellow to this side right here to the north.
Yes.
yeah, the yellow that's on the map.
Where that little bitty triangle is?
Is on the south side of 64.
Okay, that's, okay.
We wanna do the north.
I want to ask that the board and the planning commission consider that. That's my point. Second, on Highway 196 North at I-40, the map as proposed includes the west side of that intersection in our UGB request, but not the east side. I would suggest it's in the city's long-term interest to control both sides of that interchange, recognizing the town of Galloway is on the north side on both sides of that interchange.
You think Galloway and Somerville's not gonna ask for it too, at that interchange?
Somerville won't, and I don't think Galloway's map included that.
Galloway's,
I'm gonna tell you, Mr. Allen said something about continuous annexation, and if it ain't, it's not worth the money. And I mean, we're talking about something right here that's never gonna happen. You're never gonna get to that spot, because them people right there, all them people in that rural area are not gonna ask to be annexed.
but the people that might develop the interchange could ask for our services, could ask for annexation.
That's right.
But then you wouldn't have continuous annexation, you'd have spotted annexation.
It'd be a big skip in between.
It'd be legal, but it would be what we're in a mess with now.
Okay, then if that's the case, we need to flip the question and drop what's proposed there.
And Mr. Johnson has a point. If we're gonna get any industry or any big factories or anything, which will provide significant tax revenue, it's gonna be along that interstate, just down the road from where the Ford plant is. And it would behoove Oakland to go ahead and claim that area while we have a chance.
I'm not against it, I'm just telling you that it's possible, but it's not probable.
I'm gonna let Mr. Johnson move on, but I have an obvious question that just keeps gnawing on me. We came up with a plan through the planning. It came to this board for 2 public readings. Do we have the authorization to change the plan? Do we have to have 2 more public readings?
We would, yes, sir.
Okay.
All I'm trying to do tonight is put this information before you. We'll put it before the planning commission. If the decision's not to change it, that's fine. I'm just pointing out that on 64 West is the obvious one, because if water is extended, it's going to be on the north side of the highway.
That's right.
So, I mean, and to
Why
say,
would we not run down the Shelby County line? Now why would we not do that?
The north side of 194, or I'm sorry, 196, goes all the way to 40, and right around the corner of that is Helen of Troy.
That's right.
And
Well, down the road away.
They are building that area, and if we don't see a growth potential for that area, we might as well just give our money away, because that's gonna make some revenue.
I thank you, Mr. Fisher. We already have it approved to adopt the yellow up there, right, Mr. Fisher? Mr. Johnson?
well, you haven't done a resolution, we just had the 2 public hearings.
Okay, so we've had the public hearings on it. So that part we've already done, Mr. Fisher. We just gotta
Mayor, can I
approve.
offer just a point of clarification? I think Mr. Johnson and I, we went to this urban growth meeting, and I think we were both, when we walked in, we felt very comfortable with this map. When we sat down at the table and we saw Piperton extending beyond 193, coming north of 193, and if you saw what Rossville wants, dwarfs that entire map that we're even requesting. Rossville wants, really their whole county. I think they even requested a little bit of Mississippi down to the south, to be honest with you. It is a massive, massive piece of land, and that caused Mr. Johnson and I both to have a little bit of concern. We may need to go ahead and protect our interests while we have a chance, and there is pending legislation in the state right now that this may be the last time we ever do this, that they're getting away with this entire process. So if we don't get it now, it may be much more difficult to get it later. Am I?
You're absolutely correct.
Okay.
The other area that I would suggest, and this is the area Mr. Allen was talking about, I acknowledge, I think strategically, we need to look along 194 North more. And I say that because the county is proposing a new planned growth area for the new interchange 39 on I-40. As currently drafted, that comes down to and below Highway 59. So there might be some interest in looking more on 194. That's not to say we would take all of it, but that might be an area we might want to look at. On the south, if you look at the map, some of the area to the east of 194 South is in our UGB. The area to the west is not. Again, if the city, our developers, or whomever extends utilities, we might want that area in our urban growth boundary. Urban growth boundary does not mean the property be annexed. It just means it's part of our planning area. But we might want to look at 194 South. The other area, and this is somewhat confusing, on 196 south of Oakland, 20 years ago or 10 years ago, there was an area that was included in the proposed Oakland UGB. It was taken out. The county then designated it as a planned growth area number 3. Do we want to have discussions with Fayette County regarding that area, or leave it like it is? All I'm trying to do is advise the board that there's some areas that we might want to look at more broadly.
Okay. The next step in this process will be going back to the planning board first.
Yes, sir.
And then coming back to this.
Yes, sir.
We will-
And
we will-
if I may, Mayor,
Go ahead, sir.
Mr. Wiggins, if you could help me, I believe the next meeting of the Fayette County Urban Growth Committee is going to be in either May or June.
I think they said late April or mid-May. I pushed for mid-May. Some others wanted it earlier, but we'll see. Which barely gives us enough time.
Yes.
Well, we'll need to get with Mr. Catan and make sure the planning board has a clear understanding of what's going on. Okay, we're through with that. We'll move on. Report on emergency purchase for repair of storm drains, Chickasaw Ridge Drive. Mr. J.
About 10 days ago, Mr. Mullins come to me. They had been TVing some storm drains at another location, and probably many of you are aware, on Chickasaw Trace Drive, we've got some dips where the pavement is sinking. Mr. Mullins had the contractor TV that line, and he discovered that a 36-inch storm sewer had been hit twice by utilities, and that was why the storm sewer is failing and causing the road to fail. After discussing with Mr. Mullins, after discussing it with Ken King, our engineer, I made the determination it qualified as an emergency for 3 reasons. With the storm season, spring coming, we didn't want further damage from spring storms. Second, we didn't want further damage to the road. And third, that road is on our bid paving list. I didn't want to ask the board to pave it and then we tear it up. We obtained 2 quotes. I'm sorry.
Did you say utilities hit the drain twice?
2 different utilities hit the drain.
Do we know who they were?
But why are they not fixing our drain?
All right, Mr. Mullins.
I'm not 100% sure that the utilities that hit them, we're not gonna know that until we get it dug up. There's a gas main going across there, also
But our pipe has been damaged.
It's damaged, we got it on film.
So if we fix it and pay for it, and it's determined that someone else did damage it, can we ask them for reimbursement?
If we get it dug up, sure we can.
Photograph it.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
time frame on that, Mr. Minor?
Because this has been years, you can tell it's been a long time.
Well,
We got stuff, y'all, we got stuff all over Oakland like that. That's the reason we had the camera truck out here. I got places everywhere, AT&T, cable lines.
I'm aware.
It's awful.
We got other roads we're gonna have to do too.
The other point that,
Thank you, Mr. Mullins.
other point that he made, that we have talked about, you have talked about as a board, this is that heavy-duty plastic pipe. That should not have been under a road. But the complication is, we've got to replace it with what's there because we've got to tie it back in together.
It's either replace it with what's there or spend a whole bunch of money.
How much is a whole bunch of money?
We haven't got quotes on that, but, I'd say right now, if they put it back like it's supposed to be, ADS will be fine. It's all over Oakland.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, the quote, the written quote we obtained, the low one is $33,740. That would come out of the Street Department General Fund. The other quote was not provided in writing. They did provide a quote. It would be $40,000.
And that's to put it back with a plastic pipe?
If you already have pipe going under that road with ADS, there's no way to attach that back to concrete.
Isn't this already done?
No, sir. This has all happened in the last 10 days.
But, I mean, it was declared as an emergency, so the process is,
Is underway.
yeah. I
It'd
mean,
be just, it's an information for
yeah,
you.
it's
Yeah.
just information.
I got the quote on the 13th. I confirmed it either Tuesday or Wednesday with Ken King, and you're correct, sir. My goal was to report tonight what we were doing.
Right.
It just,
You're not asking me to vote on it. You're
No.
just telling me what you did.
but the time frame didn't work. We haven't actually started the work yet.
No.
Proceed.
So you don't need any action on this tonight?
No,
Okay,
we will proceed.
Now, it's just a business consideration.
okay.
Moving on. Thank you, Mr. Mullins. You're getting your exercise now.
Looks like you've been doing a little too much.
You're back.
All right, E, acknowledgement, correspondence from Tennessee Comptroller's Office on fiscal year 2022 audit. Mr. J.
This is a form letter from the Comptroller's Office advising us that they've not yet received our audited financial statement, which we obviously recognize. I think you had a memo from the finance director. We are working diligently to get that completed.
When was it due?
December 30th.
Oh, okay.
Okay. F, Parks and Recreation Director appointment, Mr. J.
Just wanted to advise the board that we have gone through interviews. We invited 5 people in, 4 accepted. We're down to 2 finalists, and we're working diligently to get that decision as soon as possible. Both of the finalists are currently working in West Tennessee in a Parks and Recreation Department.
Did we have a resignation in our Park and Rec department?
Sir, with respect, we have had a resignation letter submitted, if I can just say that.
I don't, can I ask a question?
You can ask the question. I think the man told you he
I don't-
really didn't want to talk about it.
No. I don't mean to, well, I'm looking at this letter, and I don't mean to, this is not to disparage anyone. I see the interview committee members, and most of them I have no problem with, but there's a couple of names, for instance, Blake Coker. I don't think Blake would want a Parks and Rec director interviewing for a wastewater treatment facility director. The Parks and Rec don't know nothing about wastewater. Is this just for convenience?
No. There, believe it or not, there was a strategy.
Okay.
Blake is a new employee. He's been with the city less than a year. He went through this process. He could help an applicant understand what we do, why we do it in terms of the interview process. He also is a father And, you know, theoretically, someday his kids might be participating in our program. Jenna Arnold, for example, her kids no longer do, but her kids participate in our program. She was able to talk about what it was like with these candidates and ask questions about their experience and how they handle situations where they are now. Both Jenna and Blake contributed to the interview.
Since I sit on that committee, I will say that Blake, in one particular applicant, had a question that only a newly employed person could answer, and Blake gave him a very satisfactory answer, and it was quite helpful.
Just looking for information.
Okay? If no further questions, we'll move on.
Does he think, you think you'll have one down by next month's meeting?
Yes, sir.
G, Public Works Director.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't mean that towards you.
G, Public Works Director, CIP Co-Coordinator appointment. Mr. Johnson.
I think the board members are aware that we have offered and he has accepted. Mr. Harvey Ellis will be our new Public Works Director, Capital Projects Coordinator, beginning on Monday, March 20th. You have in your packet a copy of the letter where we extended an offer to Mr. Ellis.
You added a lot to his responsibilities, different than what he did before, right?
Yes, sir.
Is this not something the board should vote on?
No.
Not until the charter's changed.
I say we deem it.
Okay, moving on.
Make the comment. I say we deem it. That the charter's been changed. Can we not do that?
Mr. Johnson, you want to answer that?
I'm sorry?
Can we deem that the charter was changed up in the state?
You have filed the application,
Right,
but I don't believe it's been heard yet.
okay.
It's
It
not
was-
officially,
it
it's
was-
not officially
Passed.
passed until the governor signs it and
That's
they'll
right.
send you a copy.
So
And we vote on it here. There's a final vote.
It's gotta pass by
here.
2/3 vote.
We gotta get a final vote.
So, we had it sent up to the state on the 16th of January, correct? Why was it pulled back?
I don't know, but we resubmitted about 2 weeks ago. I don't know if it was on their end.
That's a lot of time.
I don't know if it was on their end, our end, I don't know, but Representative Gant's office called me and we resubmitted it that same day.
They have their own agenda,
Because
we can't
somebody
change it.
pulled it back, and, I mean, who has the authority to pull it back?
It could have been somebody in their office didn't get it correctly, didn't find it when they were looking for it. There's no explanation. He didn't offer us an explanation. He just said to resubmit it.
I was up there last week and the week before that, and they had no idea what I was talking about. They knew nothing of a charter change submitted on the 16th of January.
Okay?
It was.
That's pretty bad. That's
No,
pretty-
no, what,
It's
it
not
was,
bad?
it was sent. Now,
Okay.
where it went, I don't know. It was sent. It was sent the week after your meeting. I could go pull the date. It was sent. The mayor signed the letter. I don't know if something happened in Representative Gant's office, in the legislative drafting office.
And Paige Wally's office, neither one of them.
It was
I'm
sent.
just telling you,
We were aware of that.
Okay.
Because they sent us a notice. That's why we resubmitted it. We were assured by Senator Wiley there'd be no problem.
And it was received when we resent it.
Could I say something, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I know when we changed the charter the last time, we had something similar. It didn't get through the first session, and they sent it back to us that we had to, I think, do it again for the next section. Is that right?
Well,
I know it went through too.
Their legal has a right to, review it and make, requested, revisions.
Right, that's what happened to us before.
We've not received anything from legislative legal at this point.
What we sent to them 2 weeks ago was the same thing that we'd sent before. There was nothing different.
If I may, this is just an overall comment. We are still today, I think it was yesterday, receiving census letters back. that were mailed to the town of Oakland.
Did we not finish the census?
Yes, sir.
Had to,
February 28th.
Got 100%, 98%?
no.
No. Census failed. We only got 69%. But my point is, we are getting letters in the mail this week on the census. Now, I haven't checked to see when they were postmarked, I'll say that, but
You can't depend on this mail out here anyway.
Okay. We have any other items of business?
We have the one we deferred and took off the
Yes, sir.
consent agenda.
Your point's well taken. Do we have any other items before I get to that?
No.
Okay. All right. I moved that down to the end. We'll do that before we do credit applications and appeal of invoices. Mr. Johnson, you want to
in your
respond to that?
in your packet, you had the quote, detail. This, when we say park, it's all of our park properties, not just the athletic field. You have the detailed estimate for the Oaklands, for Northwoods Estates Park, Oakland Woods Park, Cypress Creek, which is the entire property, not just the fields, West Junior High, and Oakland Elementary baseball field. That totals $9,215 for the year, and that's based on the projected number of treatments.
Still come back to my question, if it wasn't in the contract that we can add a year extension, well, you answered that already. We can do this, because it's under 10,000.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, if it's not a contract, and I understand that, but we need to make sure that everything's not included, because we actually spent $11,034.25.
Yeah, that's right, and my question is, if it's under 10,000, we don't have to get a contract, why do we have to put it out for bid in the first place?
You really need to change your ordinance where these type of contracts do have to go. Well, now, this would be between 5 and 10, which would only require quotes. Anything over 10 requires bids. But you've got one ordinance that says between 5 and 10 quotes. You've got another ordinance that says recurring services. If it's less than 10, it doesn't require anything. And MTS has weighed in. I mean, no other town that I work with has that kind of ordinance. It needs to be reconciled.
I still don't have a code book, and I'm being patient and waiting, but at some point, I'm gonna get some of this stuff, and I'm going to request a workshop over the summer months when it's a little bit slower, maybe July, that we sit down and go through and clean all this up, because I'm tired of talking about this. It's one ordinance or some other resolution every month.
But what bothers me about this, I'm just gonna be frank. So you get a bid for something, let's say it's a gator, okay? Say it's a gator. And then the bid comes in at $9,500. We get it in, but then we spend another $2,000 on it that takes it over the 10. You bought it out of contract, and then you spend more money in that, just like this contract. So contract come in under, the deal come in under 10 at $9,200, but then we actually spent $11,000. And so I don't wanna circumvent or appear that we're circumventing bids to get around the purchasing contracts. And the best thing you can do is bid them all out.
Mr. Mayor,
Okay.
please, ladies and gentlemen,
Mr. Johnson, hold up.
Okay, sorry.
Sir, are you the bidder on this?
Yes, sir.
Step up here to the counter here.
If I may.
Well, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
What is the amount, Mr. Johnson?
$9,215.
Is that gonna be your final choice? You're not gonna add us any more cost?
The only thing that we ever answer is if we're asked to do other services. When we end up putting a bid in, that is the bid. But when we are asked to do other things, then you're gonna end up getting that. So when you end up seeing.
Yeah, I don't wanna appear. That's what you hadn't done nothing wrong.
Right, but.
No different than my yard. I had a deal for you to spray it, but then if I want you to aerate it, I'm gonna have to pay you more.
That's right.
No different.
And that's the thing on this, but we also, because 2 years ago, we were able to put in a 2-year bid. And we did the same thing this year, we ended up giving a price for 1 year, and then we ended up giving an extra 5% discount if we were able to get it for 2 years.
Okay.
So there, it's the same thing that's on the plate on here. If we end up getting a 2-year bid, we've got an extra 5%, which lowers it even more. But if we're asked to do other things, then we submit that, and that's what comes in.
Mr. Mayor?
I just wanna make sure if we do this without bidding and spend less than 10, at the end of the year, I don't think we ought to spend more than 10.
I got you.
That's-
Mr. Johnson?
If the board would allow me, I became aware about 3 weeks ago that these services were on a 2-year contract which had expired and it had not yet been rebid. And it's February 28th or whatever. I called and asked for a written quote for a 1-year extension. He did give us 2, but I didn't feel comfortable proposing that. It was a 1-year extension. These extra services from last year were requested by the director at the time and probably needed. I'm not debating that.
Me either.
But what you have before you is the basic service for all of our properties. If you choose not to approve this, that's fine. Then we would rebid it out, but it would probably be, well, given that it's March 16th, it'd probably be your May meeting at the earliest for it to come back to you.
What's gonna happen if you don't keep it up?
It's gonna
is
be
you're not
worse.
gonna have a bid like this next time, because they're gonna have to put more chemicals down. And it's gonna cost you more to get it treated if you don't keep it up.
You
And
know,
also keep in mind that we have a contract to maintain certain areas that's on here, like West Junior High,
That's
for
right.
use of that field. And it's our duty, and behind
That's
the
right.
elementary school, it's our duty to keep that spray.
Since you're here, let me ask a question. Do we use residential chemicals on these parks, or do you have something specifically designed for soccer fields?
We use,
Or ball fields of any type?
on this current bid, we used residential. What happened was, in January, the old director came to us and requested bids for the actual fields. The fields really need to be serviced totally different than what they are. They actually need more services, more aerations, all of that. We ended up submitting that, and actually at the time we submitted, we said, board ain't gonna approve this. You know, we're doing something for you that I know damn good and well they ain't gonna do. You know, because it was a hefty bid because of what is needed for the parks.
Give me a ballpark. What was that bid?
So, when he ended up leaving, that's when I got with Mr. J, and I'm like, you know, we've already missed one pre-emerge, so now we're gonna be fighting all of these extra weeds.
That's
You
true.
know, going into the summer, and it's gonna look like, you know what, because of missing a pre-emerge, well, I don't wanna miss it.
I understand.
So that's why we submitted things for it.
Mr. J,
But, hold on, ballpark it for me. What was the bid?
What, sir?
What was the bid?
Exactly what I ended up
No, back in
saying.
January.
Back in January, if you were gonna do the extra stuff to the fields, just, it don't, I'm not gonna hold you to it, 20,000, 18,000?
$16,000
Okay.
for
Okay.
the year. Because of
I'm done
exactly
there.
how we did exactly what he was requesting at the time.
Okay. Mr. Fisher?
the contracts should have been, we missed the beginning of the contract. Okay? Do we not have a mechanism to figure out what contracts are ready to expire?
That wasn't
question.
the problem.
Trash, we go in December. He's in, now they're talking March, but he says January. How did we miss that?
We didn't miss it.
We didn't miss it?
We have a director that's responsible for doing that. And the
He left
director's
January
got,
19th.
and that's why it was messed up, is
No.
obviously not.
Not acceptable.
Okay.
That should have come before the board.
Not acceptable.
Well, we've gotta know what's there.
Yeah. We can't vote on things.
No,
if we
wait,
don't know
excuse me.
Something to vote on.
I never saw, as your town manager, I never saw his bid on that other work. There was no bid done. There was simply a request for quotes, apparently. I don't know how many quotes were obtained. But when I became aware that we did not have a contract and the fields had not been treated. What could we do to salvage the situation? And this is the same situation we wound up with on the fireworks.
They've been in great shape with them doing the thing.
I know that.
Better
Yeah.
than they've ever been.
I don't think there's any question with their service.
All right, Mr. Tom has already said we can legally do this. We know the gentleman does good work. My suggestion is, Mr. Johnson can do this without our approval. Let's roll and we'll get a contract right next year when we get a new park director.
So you just want for the 1 year then?
If Mr. Johnson can do this without our approval, why do we have a resolution? I don't think Mr. Johnson can do this without our
It
approval.
needs the board's vote.
Yes.
I thought it was under 10,000, we didn't have to do it.
No.
It needs the board's vote. It just
Yes.
don't need a bid process.
I stand corrected, I thought it was under 10,000, it was under his control.
I agree with Mr. Sutton. I'd be really happy at the end of the year if it was, not $1 over 92.15.
It's over 5, less than 10.
92.15.
Okay, thank you, sir, appreciate your time.
Yes, sir.
All right. Do I have a motion?
What's the resolution number? I've got a 23 dash with nothing on it.
Mr. Vine, you want to give us the resolution number?
It's gonna be 33.
It's,
Oh, yeah, that's why they not do it down. Just got 23 on
it'll
it.
be, no, 33 is what it says, probably, 34.
34, 23, 34, okay.
All right, do I have a motion on resolution 2334?
I make the motion to accept it, resolution 2334.
Okay, have a second.
Can I amend that motion?
You certainly.
Mine.
Yes, if she lets you.
2334 or the appropriate resolution number that hadn't been used in the past.
Hadn't been used in the past, it's very good.
Okay, all right, we've got their
Yes,
number now.
yes,
Let's move on.
yes.
I'm serious.
I know you
Yeah.
are, I know you are. All right, you satisfied with that, Mr.?
Yes, sir.
You have a second on it, Mr. Suttons?
I did.
Mr. Cates is a second. All right, I have a motion and a second on 2334. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right. We have any other items of business, Mr. Johnson?
Yep.
Invoices, no business, no, sir.
No other items of business. Any credit applications, Ms. Yvonne?
No, sir.
All right, invoices?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll ask the board to look at the invoices. Take a motion to approve.
Motion
We have
to,
time. You have a
motion to
question?
approve.
I have a question first, Vice
Question?
Mayor.
Direct it to Ms. Yvonne, please.
Miss Yvonne, on the Sunny Bunny Easter eggs invoice, is that for the upcoming, we're gonna do an Easter egg hunt? So I was on last year, I believe certain aldermen went and volunteers stuffed Easter eggs with candy. So we're eliminating that, we're buying the eggs with candy, right? Is that what we're doing? I guess what we got? So I guess we already have the eggs, I'm gonna say now they wanna be paid for them. You
Yes.
saw them, so that's what we got? We got the eggs. Okay. I just wanted to know. Thank you very much.
Okay, we have a motion from the mayor, vice mayor,
Don't get ahead of yourself.
accept the, approval of invoices. Do I have a second? Have a second from Mr. Fisher. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. K,
Make a motion to adjourn.
we are adjourned. I will compliment you, you beat my time, I said it would be 10:30, y'all.
My goodness, my goodness.
What's that?
It's 3 hours and 10 minutes. We could have watched a baseball game.
You gotta quit asking questions, Mr.
Make it easy on me, Mr. Johnson.
Hey, young lady, how you doing?
Did you have